Hey, what's up, all? Let me know if there's audio issues. That's all I ask. Everything else, I can take care of. It's the audio issues. So, yeah, I just did a live stream with my buddy SJG, and I thought that went really well. He had to get going, so there were some things I wanted to talk about that I hadn't got to. So, this will probably go for about an hour or so, or until people get bored of me, which is probably right now, but that's okay. So, some of the things I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to talk more about the impeachment stuff and what's gone since the last week when I've been doing videos. Sorry, I've been kind of sporadic. Work kind of called. The holidays are always sporadic, but I'm going to hit on some of the stuff that we saw and the debate I had with Twitch streamer Destiny. If whoever's watching, if you could just give me a message in the chat if the audio is working, that would be great. But anyways, we'll go forward as if it is working and hope that it is working. So, one of the feedback that I got, well, let me just first say in general, no matter how good you think you are at debating or how good you think someone is, when you're in the moment and you're trying to discuss things, oftentimes you don't get to make every point that you would like. So I definitely thought that I left some things on the table with the debate that I did. Now, you could go check out that debate if you want, and you could check out my reaction video to that debate. Just kind of where I go through it step by step. So I'm not going to be rehashing any of that, but that's sort of what was going on there. Hey, what's up, Mohammed? So what I wanted to talk about real quick about that is the idea of what type of tone should we take? What's up, Milo? What type of tone should we take when we're talking to people that disagree with us? And it's a very difficult thing. So a lot of criticism that I'm getting from people on the right is they think that I should have just like spiked the ball. Yeah, he's changing the subject right out of the gate and things like that. And I'm not talking about that debate specifically, but just in general, when we talk to people that might disagree with us, particularly if we're people that think that whether you're a Trump supporter or, maybe you're just someone who is against kind of the oligarchy that we see. Oh, there, my wife's listening. She's in the other room, but also can hear me on her phone. How about that? My advice and what I would ask for people is I try to just be myself. I'm not the type of person, look, if I'm drunk at a bar and I'm arguing about something, maybe I could get heated. And I certainly get heated in my own videos when I'm doing it. But when I'm trying to reach out to other people that might disagree with me, I'm going out of my way to be polite. And there's just, I'm not going to get anywhere with some of the arguments that people wanted me to make. For example, here's an argument that I know is true. We've signed a treaty with Ukraine that they're obligated before they receive aid to us. From us to work on ending corruption. So a lot of people are like, oh, you don't even know what you're talking about. You didn't bring that up. But the problem is we couldn't even get to the baseline of what we're talking about. So if I made that argument, this is the argument that the anti-Trumper, or I hate to use that term, but the argument that someone disagreeing with you'd say, doesn't matter. It's all about the process. It was a quid pro quo, etc. So it doesn't matter what that treaty says. Period. Congress voted. That's all that matters. So that type of argument's not going to really get you anywhere, which is why I kind of didn't go that. And also, as I've said before, I thought that he was nice enough to bring me on, having a much bigger platform. He had about 4,000 of his subscribers watching that debate live. I probably had 2 or 3 people watching that debate live. So yeah, I'm going to let him kind of steer the direction of the conversation. I thought that I handled myself as well as I wanted to. And I think the ultimate compliment that I've gotten is from a good friend of mine, Nate, who's actually a big fan of Destiny's. And he told me that he thought that I carried myself politely. And so even as someone who tends to agree with Destiny, he thought I did better than most conservatives. And in that, I didn't allow it to get shut down by just being rude. That's what a lot of people want to do. It doesn't matter how good of a point you're making. If someone's controlling the platform, for example, take my debate out of it. Let's say one of you here, you have very important things to say on a specific issue. Like, for example, you, Milo, I know you have such an intelligence about things that I don't specifically know. Let's say you get an opportunity to go on CNN and you start making your point kind of about kind of corruption that's going on that we see with Epstein or something like that. And as soon as you give them an excuse, then, you start raising your voice or you're like, no, you're stupid. Why are you just ignoring everything? They're just going to be like, okay, you're done, shut you off. And then no one gets to hear the good points you're making. So it's better to fight the war that's going on, or the long game, play the long game. Don't just win the battle by kind of shouting down the person you're talking to. Understand that if you leave yourself room to continue to get your facts out there in a polite way where people are like, hey, even if I don't like this guy, I'm willing to listen to him. And then maybe you get a chance to come back on and then more people get to hear you. So that's it. That's all I have to say about that debate. If you know anyone conservative or liberal that would like to debate me, I would love to do it. And again, I use the term debate loosely. It doesn't have to be debate. It could be a conversation. I know I'm going to have Milo on soon, and he's going to be talking about stuff I have no clue about. I'm not sure. I don't think I'll disagree with him, but I don't know how much of it's stuff that I'm into. But I like listening to people, and I'll listen to, one of the things that I'm trying to do with this channel is to get people that have areas of expertise that I don't have. That's even down to the level of like, you're a welder, you're a trucker, what's your life situation like? You grew up in the inner city. We all, I think it's important to give people voices that normally don't have them. So whatever that might be. So that's something I'm trying to do there. So impeachment stuff. Let's get to that I wanted to talk about from this week. So I'm going to be flat out honest with you. I spent so much time and I was so burnt out on the impeachment from watching the hearings the previous 2 weeks. All the testimony that we saw. I didn't watch more than 10 minutes of this week's impeachment debacle. But I have a reason, aside from just being burnt out. And the reason, it's a really good reason. I think you'll think it's a good reason. And that's because none of these people had anything to say. None of them are witnesses. This was just a CNN panel saying, we don't like Trump, we think he should be impeached. So, I didn't even, oh yeah. My wife's mentioning my wall here. My chair's ruining it. So sorry about that, wife. Yeah, reindeer fur. I wish I could afford such luxuries. I'm sure it's some cheap petroleum byproduct my chair's made out of. But so yeah, there wasn't much going on. It's just a bunch of people, and this is one of the things that upsets me. And I had this guy on my channel called he goes by the name Basic Thoughts. He's someone who actually follows Destiny. And it's more left-wing than me, I would say. Very nice guy, though. We started off screaming at each other on Twitter and ended up, he came on the show. We've probably done 12 to 14 hours of conversation on here. And we disagreed a lot politically. He's more left-leaning. And one of the conversations we had is the idea of defaulting to experts on things. And he kind of was coming from a position putting more stock into that to me. And I don't think that he's wrong. There is a time to put stock in professionals. For example, if we're talking on how to build a garage, I'm a total layman. Probably if the carpenter tells me, look, dude, you're doing that wrong, it's not going to work out, I probably default to that expert. But then there are times when defaulting to an expert doesn't necessarily work. Like, for example, philosophical conversations. I used to say this all the time in debate. You would have conversations basically that amount to like, what is the meaning of life? Well, who's more qualified than me to speak on that? Aren't we all kind of qualified to make up our own determination on that? Just because someone went to theologian school or something, they might be able to tell you more about a specific religion or the text of it. But when it comes to what is the meaning of life or something like that, like, why do you need an expert? Or, there's all kinds of stuff that could be said like that. One of the things is, I think that we as normal people know when to smell BS when we see it. Some people may be better than others, but I don't care if an expert is telling me otherwise if it's clearly garbage. Let me give you an example. Now, all the experts might be able to tell me that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, and 2 guards fell asleep while it was going, and he tried to kill himself previously, but they decided not to have any suicide watch on him, and they didn't have any cameras pointed on him at the cell, and they had cameras outside of his cell, but they both happened to malfunction at the same time. Yeah, I don't believe that. That's garbage. I don't care how many experts they bring on CNN. I don't care how many times Rachel Maddow or Anderson Cooper or whoever tells me, oh, no, you're an evil, crappy conspiracy theorist if you don't buy that story. That story is garbage. It's garbage. But wait a minute, this person's an expert on prisons. And he has a very good reason why 2 guards fell asleep. He wasn't on suicide watch. There weren't any cameras on his cell, and the cameras outside the cell malfunctioned at the same time. Yeah, sorry, I don't believe it. And I have reason not to believe the experts that are always saying. Now, where am I going with this? One of the things I saw in that debate I had, and that you constantly see when you're trying to defend against this impeachment garbage, is there's this constant appeal to authority. Everybody in the State Department said it's this way. Everybody in the media says it's this way. Everybody in academia says it's that way. Everybody in Hollywood thinks Trump's guilty, so he must be guilty. Now, to the point where, I'm getting, not a lot, and here's one fault of mine. I need to learn to just leave comments go. I don't have to respond to every comment. But one of the comments I'm getting is, when I do a video, I'll get a comment like this once in a while. Someone will be like, dude, you need to stop watching Fox News. Why don't you go out and read some real material? What are you talking? And I was kind of talking this with my live stream with SJG. Like, what are you talking about? Like, for example, the article I did, or the video I did about John Solomon, which I think you should really check out. I literally went through every single piece of source material. Some of that was the direct transcripts from the testimony. Some of that was official government documents from the U.S. government or from the Ukrainian government. Some of it was from news reports from the official state reporting agency in the Ukraine. Some of it was from places like Politico, Financial Times, other places like that were giving public quotes from the relevant officials. But still, that's all lumped together as, this all must be a right-wing conspiracy. It's all been debunked. Why? Well, because that's what CNN told them. That's what Rachel Maddow said. That's what the New York Times said. That's what Joe Biden said. So therefore, there's no need to look into this. The problem is, and here's how I know I'm right on this argument, that's a fallacy. That's an appeal to authority fallacy. And here's how I know I'm right that we shouldn't do that, right? Remember when everybody in the intel community and basically everyone in the establishment told us we should go to war in Iraq? Whoops! How about the Gulf of Tonkin? How about supporting Fidel Castro? How about Libya and removing Gaddafi? How about overthrowing the Shah in Iran? How about the debacle that we're in Afghanistan now? How about Syria? Remember when they said, no, we have to bail out the bankers, everything's going there. How'd that work out? Just trust the bankers, trust them, they're good. That worked out pretty good? Or how about the constant censoring, the gatekeeping of, we have to trust, they know what's better for us, so if they want to censor certain voices, I don't care if it's on the left or right, that's okay, let them do it. For me, the first conspiracy I got involved in was Waco, believe it or not, and that was because I watched this documentary, and again, people are going to say, was it Alex Jones? No, it was not Alex Jones. I forget the name of the documentary, but it wasn't that I was just taking the author of this documentary's words. Everything he said was interesting, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is this guy's take on it. Maybe there's another side. No. It was when I saw the actual FBI press conference that I heard something that was so insane. I could not believe that it didn't infuriate the entire world and country, right? And that was, if you don't know, Waco, you had the Branch Davidians, David Koresh, there was supposedly this cult, and they were hung up in this compound for, 50-something days. Originally, the ATF came in, there was a gunfight, there's all kinds of allegations, who started it, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to know any of that. Just know that eventually the compound caught on fire, and a bunch of people died, including many children. They found the bodies of the children. It actually turned out some of them didn't even die from the fire. The way these kids died was they basically were in a pantry because they were trying to hide from and keep in mind, they think that this is their revelations, that the evil government's coming in to kill them all. So if you're raising your kids like that and here you are, you're being surrounded and they're firing guns and tear gas and stuff, and you think this is kind of biblical. So they're hid up in the pantry with kids and they shot tear gas in. They shot so much tear gas in that some of these kids as young as 8 years old and younger, when they found their bodies, the coroner said that actually it wasn't the fire or smoke inhalation that killed them. It was that so much tear gas was used that it acted as strychnine. And so what it happens is it contracts your muscles so tight that it snapped their neck. An incredibly brutal, painful way to die. Children! Now, David Koresh and the people in the compound didn't have tear gas. This was launched by the FBI. Maybe a blunder, right? Maybe, I've been watching chess videos, so I'm saying the word blunder a lot. Maybe a mistake. Maybe the FBI's we screwed that up, right? No. That's not what they said. You know what they said in the press conference? They said, we thought that if we hurt the children, the parents would let them go. That is your FBI admitting, yes, we tortured children. We thought that the people we were calling psycho-religious cult people would leave the children go if we tortured them enough. And that's incredible. I remember being younger when the Waco thing happened. I never heard this. I'm like, wait a minute, this was broadcast on the media? This is the FBI saying this? My God, where is everyone? And everyone was cool with it. So I guess if everyone's cool, if New York Times doesn't have a problem with it, right? And Bill Clinton didn't have a problem with it. Janet Reno didn't have a problem with it. So it must be cool, right? No, sorry. Yeah, my wife's picking on me for the chess video I've been watching. But that's just one example. That's how I kind of... Now, does that mean every conspiracy theory is correct? No. Does that mean the FBI is always wrong? No, I'm not saying that. I've said it a million times. I'm not saying that I just assume the FBI is wrong about everything, or the intel community, or the, whatever. But I want to see... I've been lied to so many times. I'm no longer going to accept the argument. Everybody says it. All these people in the authority say it. Because they've been wrong over and over. So at some point we have to say, okay, let's stop using that appeal to authority and let's start making other arguments. Doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean your side's wrong. But give me something else. Don't just give me this appeal to authority garbage. Here's another appeal to authority maybe you heard of. Remember when the FBI spied on someone connected to Trump's campaign named Carter Page based on a dossier written by Christopher Steele that they hadn't verified? And the reason they gave was, well, we just trust Christopher Steele's a good dude. We trust his reputation. Even though they knew he was lying to them. Even though he was the FBI said, don't go out and talk to the media. He said, oh, yeah, I won't. And then he did. And the FBI said, shame on you. You're bad. That's bad. After that, 3 times after they knew that he lied to them, they went and signed off on that warrant 3 times. By the way, the IG report comes out next week. I'll be doing many a video, I'm assuming. But that was an appeal to authority. We have to trust Christopher Steele. I argued about this dossier with people all over the internet constantly. Nothing, Court. You don't have to do anything. You go to bed. I argue with people and they said, oh, no, Christopher Steele, he's really good in the FIFA scandal. And he's an expert. The guy's a spy. We have to trust him. You just got to trust him. You got to trust that dude. Why? And nothing's adding up. And he said, oh, we just got to trust him. This is a favorite talking point. Everything. I did that entire John Solomon article. Or, every time I say something, these are not things that are hearsay. The entire case against Trump is hearsay, right? But when I'm bringing up things, I'm like for example, you'll just hear like little claims. And I've gone through this all with you. Please, check out my videos I did on the impeachment stuff. If you're interested in any of this, if you got time to kill, if you think I have a beautiful face, check them out, So I'm not going to rehash everything that I constantly repeat myself. But let me just give you one example. My take's real simple. If there was a reason to investigate the Bidens in 2016 election interference, then there is no case for impeachment. Because literally what you're telling the American people is, yes, of course, there's possible corruption with Biden and possible corruption in Ukraine helping the Democrats win the 2016 election, but we don't think that should be investigated. It should be a crime to try to investigate that. And that's all impeachment is. It's a political calculus. If that's what they're trying to sell the American people, it's garbage. Now, of course, they're going to lie. They'll use their control of the media and the entertainment industry and academia to just obfuscate the truth. Of course, that's what they'll do. So if that's the case, right? So one of the things people say is, oh, no, what Joe Biden didn't do anything wrong. And here's why, because everybody in the world said, we want this prosecutor Shokin out. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not really an argument. Like, the best argument I have for that, what's up, Project Chief? The best argument I have for that is, remember, everybody in the world wanted James Comey fired, but when Trump actually fired him, we had to have a big, long investigation, didn't we? I don't recall Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow saying, whoa, everybody hold your horses. Robert Mueller, we wanted Comey fired. Us Democrats thought Comey should be fired. The Republicans thought Comey should be fired. Rod Rosenstein wrote a memo saying Comey should be fired. So the New York Times, do you remember their op-ed saying, hey, let's push the brakes on a special counsel. Let's push the brakes. Trump had, we all said that they should be fired, so clearly Trump did nothing wrong. Oh, no, they said the opposite, right? They said, no, we want a special counsel. Because even if everyone wanted Comey fired, that doesn't prove that Trump did it for the right reasons. Maybe Trump did it to protect himself. I'm not from that movie, James Silent Bob. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I talk way more than Silent Bob, and I don't look like a thin, long-haired guy like Jay. So, Thank you for calling me cutie, though. I really appreciate it. I'll try to keep up with the comments. But you get it? Okay, that's the idea of what we're talking about, kind of this appeal to authority. And then what they'll come back to me and they'll say this. They'll say, okay, but listen. Shokin was corrupt. This guy Shokin was corrupt that Biden wanted fired. And you know how we know he's corrupt? Actually, I can't believe people bought this argument. I picked on it from day one. I was the first person I heard pick on this, right? You ready? Here's the argument. Actually, Joe Biden wanted his son investigated harder. Because, see, the corrupt prosecutor, Shokin, he really wasn't investigating Joe Biden's son's company. So Biden was actually, by forcing Shokin out, he was actually ensuring that his son got investigated harder. Come on, dude. Do any of you have kids or know people that have kids? You really think that Biden's such a noble guy? He's like, I'm sorry, Hunter. You need to be investigated harder. You really buy that? That's the mainstream argument. That's the Biden's camp defense of Biden. And they said, Shokin, here's how we know. Because everybody knows Shokin wasn't doing anything involved in the investigation. And you might say, well, wait a minute. I read sworn deposition from Shokin saying actually he was doing things into the investigation. He was going to look directly at Hunter Biden. And they'll say, no, Shokin's a big liar. That's not true. He's just a big liar. No, I'm not sweating. I think it's just a natural glisten I have. So then, to counter all this, so now we have two claims. We have Shokin claiming, look, I was investigating this. And then we have all the Democrats saying, no, everyone agreed Shokin wasn't doing anything with the case. See, Shokin was corrupt. He was just leaving these corrupt oligarchs walk free. So that's the two sides we have. So what do? How do we resolve this issue? Right? Well, let's look at what we could actually prove happened. Did you know, according to the official Ukrainian state press agency, actual documents that you could go see, that Shokin, the prosecutor that Biden had fired the month before Biden had him fired, seized all of the property of the owner of Burisma, the corrupt oligarch. Now that might be shocking to you if you just listen to CNN and the New York Times and everybody at the EU and the IMF, right? It's all been debunked. Shokin wasn't doing anything. Yet we could see the official documents that a month before he was forced out, he seized huge amounts worth of monies of property. A home, the land connected to it, property within the home. Now you could make an argument, but that wasn't good enough. Maybe so. But the claim that he wasn't doing anything is not true. That's not true. Okay? Now forget about the grand scheme of things. Just look at this in a vacuum. We actually have the documents that he seized this property. Now when I say this to someone, you know what their response is to me? That Fox News talking point, that's all been debunked. Why don't you read the actual evidence instead of just listening to Fox News? Like, what are you talking about? Young Turk segment? Do I look like Cenk now? Oh my God. That's what they say. We have the actual proof. We have other things. Like, we have, you want to hear, like, you don't hear this story often, do you? Have you heard anyone talk about this? We have actual proof in the form of emails that here's the schedule. February 2016, all this property from, remember, the guy's name that owns the company, Zlochevsky. Zlochevsky's this corrupt oligarch. Biden says he's corrupt. Obama says he's corrupt. Everybody says he's corrupt, right? Okay? Zlochevsky, he was a pro-Putin guy. So everybody thinks this dude's corrupt. He needs to go. He stole a bunch of resources from the Ukraine in the form of gas licenses and things like that, right? Really corrupt dude, okay? So he's corrupt and he owns this gas company, Burisma, and that's corrupt. And Hunter Biden's on the company. Hunter Biden's not corrupt, though. That was all cool. He got paid all that money because he's not corrupt, apparently. Anyways, so this dude's corrupt. February 2016, the prosecutor that's looking into it seizes Zlochevsky's property. Around the same time, the defense attorneys for Zlochevsky's company, Burisma, I know it's a lot of names, basically the lawyers working for Hunter Biden and this corrupt guy's company, we have the emails. They contacted the State Department. What did they say to the State Department? I'm paraphrasing. Read the information yourself. But here's what they basically said. Hey, actually, we're not a corrupt company. Here at Burisma, we're not a corrupt company at all. And you know who's here? You know who's on our board of directors? Hunter Biden. That's Joe Biden's kid. Yeah, he's here. Anyways, could you at the State Department help us kind of resolve this investigation? So, prosecutor seizes a bunch of property. Then, lawyers for that corrupt guy contacts the Obama State Department and says, hey, Hunter Biden's here. Can you make this go away? Then a month later, what's Joe Biden do? He makes it go away. We know from Joe Biden's own words. He said you got 6 hours to fire this prosecutor, Shokin. Now you might say, well, maybe Biden thought Shokin wasn't doing it. Maybe he wasn't aware. Then what happens? This isn't Fox News talking points. This isn't Sean Hannity or Rush Limbaugh. This is from emails, direct things we can see. They get rid of the prosecutor. Then we can see from emails from the embassy, the Ukrainian embassy in the United States, the day that the guy's fired, these same defense attorneys that reached out to the State Department, now they're reaching out to the Ukraine embassy and say, ooh, can we talk to the new prosecutor? So a week later, they do just that. There's an interim prosecutor named Severick. Now we have Severick's files, not Sean Hannity's files, not Rush Limbaugh's files or Tucker Carlson's. Severick, the actual prosecutor. We have his notes. In his notes, he includes the business cards for these defense attorneys. So unless he was lying about these cards, he actually spoke to these defense attorneys. What do the defense attorneys tell him? They say, look, we know that U.S. officials said that your predecessor, Shokin, was corrupt, and they were spreading disinformation. Who was saying that Shokin was corrupt? Oh, that was Biden and Obama and EU and the IMF. The defense attorneys for this corrupt guy, Zlochevsky, is saying, look, we know those people were all lying. We would like to work with you, Mr. Severick, in sort of bringing this investigation to a close. We have contacts at the State Department we would like you to meet to try to resolve this investigation. Now that's proven. We have this information. What's the left's response to it? What's their response? That's all been debunked. I challenge anyone to give me anyone who's debunked that, who's remote. We have the only thing that you could possibly say is, well, Severick's corrupt. He forged those documents as well. So take a moment to think about this. Let's say that this was Trump and Trump Jr., and he got a prosecutor fired that was looking at Trump Jr. Do you think that the media and the Democrats would be like, oh, trust us. Everything was on board. All those Ukrainian prosecutors, they're all corrupt. Don't listen to any of them. They should have went. Trump was absolutely right to get rid of those people. Of course not. They would have made the claim that I've made from the get-go, which is, it's quite simple. It's a quite simple claim. Let's say you're talking to you're talking to your dad, and he's hunting, and you happen to be a really crappy hunter. You tried it when you were a teenager, but you suck at it. Oh yeah, that's me. And he doesn't know what's going on really with this. And you're like, look, dude, it's real simple. I don't care if you like Trump, Bush, Clinton, Ron Paul. It's real simple. Anytime that you have people in the executive branch who are threatening to withhold huge sums of tax money in aid to another country, unless they fire a prosecutor that's looking into their family, we should probably have an investigation. That's it. Simple. But what if it was Bill Clinton? Yep, there should be an investigation. But what if it was Donald Trump? Yep, there should be an investigation. But what if it was Obama? Yep, there should be an investigation. But wait a minute, what about W. Bush? Yep, investigation. That's not that hard. Okay, so I haven't been watching the chat here. Right. Looked like I was getting a lot of weed comments or something, whatever. So Gary, let's take, I'll assume you're a good faith arguer here, Gary. You say leave Biden's alone. There's not one charge filed against him. So I'm assuming you're not a troll, and there's zero evidence of Biden's corruption. This is the appeal to authority I'm talking about. I just outlined the case quite clearly of exactly what happened. Now, I don't have to prove that Joe or Hunter Biden are guilty. All I have to do is prove that there's enough suspicion to have an investigation. There clearly is. By the way, real quick, what's the end of the story? The investigation goes to the NABU that was funded by Obama, created with the help of the Obama administration. So finally, the same NABU that leaked evidence to help Hillary Clinton win the election. Spoiler alert, it didn't work out. So, okay, if Biden's right, he just wanted this corrupt Zlochevsky to go down. He wanted the investigation harder into his son's company. Now his allies at the NABU have the investigation. So surely they found them guilty, right? Nope, they basically shut the investigation down within a year. Now there's clearly evidence to investigate. If there's evidence to investigate, then Trump did nothing wrong. And you know how I know that the Democrats feel that way? Because the Democrats' argument for why Biden and Obama did nothing wrong was, well, it's okay to issue a quid pro quo if it was to out corruption. That was their argument. Can you think of a more serious concern of corruption than that there could have been $1 billion of our tax dollars misused for an investigate to benefit or to close down an investigation that would have harmed not only personally, but would have harmed the Democrats politically? Right? That's the distinction people were trying to make. Oh, this was what Trump tried to do, was get them to interfere in our election. Well, we know that Ukraine actually did interfere in the election. And beyond that, shutting down the investigation into Burisma and Hunter Biden's connection to it, that's also, one, it doesn't matter if it's political or not. That's clearly for personal benefit. We shouldn't have the vice president or the president using $1 billion of our tax dollars to ensure investigations into themselves get shut down. But even if you say, oh, no, only matters if it was to influence an election. You don't think that coming into 2016, it would have been a pretty big scandal if there was an ongoing investigation into Joe Biden, son, the Obama administration? Oh, but they weren't running, it was Hillary. Hillary was part of that administration. And it would have smeared the Democrats' soul. Remember, what was the big talking point? Obama, the scandal-free administration. You know? So that's it. There's a reason to investigate. Therefore, I know, because the Democrats said, oh no, Joe Biden and Obama's quid pro quo was okay. It was to out corruption. So if that's the case, if that's the standard, there's no reason that Trump's quid pro quo, which we don't even have proof that he had a quid pro quo, wouldn't also be reasonable if it's to out corruption. With Joe Biden, they say, see, here's the difference. There's two things necessary for impeachment, we're told. One, it had to be a quid pro quo. With Biden, we have an admission. Obama, Biden, definitely a quid pro quo. With Trump, well, we're still arguing. All of the impeachment stuff you've heard, all of it, every single piece of it, every single piece has been trying to prove there was a quid pro quo. So they're just trying to get us where we already know we're at with Biden. But then there's a second part that's necessary. Because otherwise the Democrats would say, yeah, Biden's guilty, Obama's guilty, they did a quid pro quo, they're guilty. But no, they're saying, no, it was perfectly fine because it was to fight corruption. So you also need to prove that the quid pro quo, if Trump issued one, was for corrupt reasons, was to benefit himself. Well, if we can prove that there was a legitimate reason to want those investigations, there's no case for impeachment. What's up with that? I had like 20 people for a minute. I got stormed. Maybe everyone came in from Twitter. People asking me if I was Silent Bob, and that's okay. I'll talk to those people too. I'm just glad, even if I have one person listening to me that's not my wife, she gets tired of hearing me. Thanks, Clearly Clever. I appreciate it. So that's what's going on, right? Now, this is the type of stuff I wanted to debate about, because, now, hear me out here. This is weird. I have a weird perspective on these things. A lot of people think the debate or the idea of disagreeing, that it's contentious and it's a bad thing. I freaking love it. I love debating about anything. Like, what's better, pie or cake? You know? Sports debates, you know. Oh, I'm a Pittsburgh fan. How the Penguins looking this year? You know, who should be on what line? Stuff like that. Like, me and my friends do that all the time. Yeah, I didn't mind that troll form at all. If all trolls were as good as that, I would support. But you know what I mean? Like, I like that. And part of why I like it's like the gamesmanship of it, it's fun. But the other reason I like it is nothing sharpens you more than having someone that disagrees. If 50 of us are in a room, if I go to a Trump rally and everyone's just like, yeah, Trump's the man, you don't really gain much from that. People might give you reasons. You're like, yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. But you're far more likely to gain stuff when people are pushing back at you, because then you have to buttress your position. You make it stronger. And sometimes you're wrong, right? That's true too. Sometimes you believe something and then you talk to someone in good faith that disagrees with you and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's actually a good point. I hadn't thought of that. So I would really like to have a discussion with people who are willing to look at the specifics of, like, just, by the way, what I just told you about that little bit, right? That's just little section. Just this one little section we went, right? Prosecutor seizes Zlochevsky's property. Lawyers for Zlochevsky contacts Obama's State Department, says do something about this. Hunter Biden works for the company. A month later, Joe Biden issues the quid pro quo. They fire that prosecutor. At the same time, basically, The defense attorneys go to the interim prosecutor, say that we know that guy got fired for garbage reasons. Please work with the State Department to end this investigation. Year later, it goes to the Obama-allied NABU. They drop the investigation. What's up, Michelle? Good evening. That's it. That's 5% of the story, maybe. That's damning. That 5%'s damning. All I'm asking for, I'm not saying, oh, man, that Rob Noor is an incredibly handsome guy. You know, I love the way his receding hairline makes the light glow just a little more dignified off his forehead, right? So I'm going to believe everything he says. That's not what I want. I've put this material up over and over. I've linked it, not necessarily in my live streams, but in my recorded videos I do. Maybe you read it and you come to the same conclusion I did. Most of these are facts. I think you will. But maybe you read it and you say, but here's what you missed. But no one does that. Not only does that suck because it's not fun, I would like to actually engage with someone who disagrees, but that's not getting to the truth, right? You know, in debate, we would have something called the line by line. I did debate in college, for those of you who don't know. And so it might be like this. Maybe you stand up and you're like, on the economy, here's point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, point 5. And so when I'm responding to you, I might say, on your first point, here's argument A and B. On your second point, here's argument A. On your third point, well, we'll skip that. On your fourth point, here's argument A and B, right? We call that the line by line. One of the things you could do, I might say, okay, you have arguments 1 through 5, group them all, circle them all. And here's my response to them all as a group. I could do that. What these people are doing, what the people that want Trump impeached are doing, they're like, okay, we're going to leave you talk for 5 hours and give actual facts and transcripts and source material, not just Fox News material, actual source material. Go ahead and talk. Okay, you went 5 hours? Wow, that's a really compelling story. Okay, here's my response. Group everything that he said. It's all been debunked. That's it. I win. That's not an argument. Or, well, if this was true, everyone would be talking about it. No one's talking about it, so. It's mind-blowing. So what I thought, getting into this debate with Destiny, and I know that people that don't like him because he's condescending and stuff like that. Again, let me just briefly say, he was nice enough to have me on his show, treated me very fair in the lead up to going on the show. And as far as the condescension during the debate, I have heard much worse. I'm not too concerned about it. My feelings weren't hurt. But I thought, oh, here's a guy who's going to be able to go through this with me and be like, oh, okay, well, this point about this lawyer, here's exactly what's going on, blah, 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 and like have a defense. Or he would say, wow, I wasn't aware of that. Yeah. But instead he just said, nah, I think any quid pro quo is reason to impeach. And if you bother to even mention the word Biden, then I'm just going to say whataboutism. Now, let me explain while I'm here. I'm just rambling tonight. I hope people don't mind. Let me explain something about this whataboutism charge. It clearly doesn't make sense in this case because we are talking, regardless of what Destiny or other people that are trying to win a debate will do, the Democrats' argument, watch what Nancy Pelosi said today. What did she say? Well, one, she said it's about Russia again, but it's about Trump trying to affect the election. So clearly, the person I was debating, their opinion's different than what the Democrats are claiming. It's quite clear the Democrats aren't saying, oh no, any quid pro quo is illegal. They tried, but then they realized, well, we can't say that. Because the American people are going to be like, oh, so your argument's this. Yes, Obama and Biden did a quid pro quo, and Nancy Pelosi and Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff and Chuck Schumer, you guys were all there for that and didn't care, didn't say a word. But now when Trump does the same thing, you're like, oh, now it's impeachable. The American people are going to be like, no, ridiculous. So they have to say, oh, no, it's different. What Trump did was different. Because when Obama and Biden did it, it was to benefit the country. But when Trump did it, it was to benefit himself. Okay, that's the debate we're having then. And this is where the Republicans go wrong, right? The Republicans have the defense of Trump backwards. Their defense of Trump is the whistleblower is corrupt and worked with Schiff, and there was no quid pro quo. And those arguments are both solid arguments to make. But you should reverse the order of it. The first argument you should be making is, even if there was a quid pro quo, and even if the whistleblower isn't corrupt, Trump had every right to want to investigate 2016 election interference and the Bidens. Period. If you win that argument, the other two don't even matter. If you win the argument that the whistleblower was corrupt, let's say, but you lose the argument that we should actually have these investigations, how would you feel if you're an American that doesn't follow politics that much? You're like, okay, I guess maybe the reason this started was because some corrupt, shady guy that hated Trump, but, you know, I guess we had no right to want these investigations Trump wanted, so I think he did something shady. But if you're just a person that doesn't know much and you're like, wow, listen to all the reasons we should be investigating Joe and Hunter Biden. Yeah, I guess I really don't care if there's a quid pro quo then. You see what I mean? So they have the order of the arguments in reverse. That's why this charge of whataboutism is nonsense. And if you don't think so, here's the best way, and this is what I should have said in that debate. But if you hear people saying this, whataboutism, here's what you say. Just say, okay, let's do a little hypothetical scenario then. Let's say in 2020, Trump wins re-election, regardless of how this impeachment crap turns out, and the Republicans win the House and the Senate, okay? Convincing victory for the Republicans, we'll say, okay? Let's say that happens, and then Devin Nunes says, you know what? Actually, we want to have an investigation of Schiff and Obama and Biden and Hillary Clinton and everybody that was involved in the Democratic Party in 2016. Everybody that was involved in the investigation of Russia collusion. We're going to investigate every single one of them, criminally. We're going to subpoena phone records. We're going to raid their lawyers' houses in the middle of the night, right? We're going to go guns a-blazing after every one of these people, right? Because we are saying, this is the Republicans saying, we're going to say that that investigation into Trump was corrupt. It was done for political reasons. It was against FBI policy, right? That's what these Republicans will say. So the Democrats, one of the argument that people from the Obama administration, the first argument they're going to try to make would be what? They'll say, well, wait a minute. Actually, there was evidence that we think warranted investigation. And imagine they make that argument and Devin Nunes gets up and he bangs his gavel and he says, that's whataboutism. We're not here to talk about Trump. We're here to talk about your investigation of Trump. Now, this guy I debated, and every Democrat, and everybody at CNN, and MSNBC, and the New York Times, and in the Democratic Party, they would go, wait, what? That makes no sense whatsoever. You're saying we can't even talk about the evidence we had that we wanted to look at into Trump's team? Nope, you can't talk about it. That's whataboutism. You're either guilty or you're not. Has nothing to do with whether or not Trump or people connected to him did anything wrong. Do you see how stupid that sounds? The entire debate, the entire investigation is, did they have a good reason to investigate Trump or not? So clearly you're going to let the Democrats try to defend themselves by saying, we think we did have a good reason. The Republicans are going to say, we don't think you did have a good reason. But for the Republicans to literally make the argument, you're not even allowed to talk about your reasons for investigating Trump. That's whataboutism. Do you see how stupid that is? That's the exact same situation we're talking about here. If there was a reason to investigate Biden and to investigate Ukrainian officials involved in 2016 election interference, then all happened to help Hillary. Then there's no case for impeachment. That's reason one, that this charge of whataboutism is stupid. Now, reason two is more of dealing with this argument in the abstract, right? So people make this claim of whataboutism all the time. I've heard people on the right make the claim, but certainly I hear it all the time on the left. And it'll go something like this, okay? Let's assume I'm a leftist that hates Trump. Okay, you ready? Trump's dirty scoundrel and should be impeached and he's the worst ever. And you want to know why? Because he's threatened to listen into phone calls of reporters. That's disgusting. That's destroying our First Amendment. That destroys a free press. Something needs to be done about this. And I say, well, wait a minute. We know that Obama actually, the Fox News journalist James Rosen, he actually wiretapped, like he spied on phone calls with James Rosen and his family. And they'll say, whataboutism? Now, there's a very nuanced argument to make here. Whataboutism in an effective context would be this. You can't say it was okay for Trump to break the law because someone previous to him broke the law. That's true. But my contention, in the example I just gave, I'm not talking about Trump. The target of my conversation isn't Trump or Obama. The target is the individual that's making this claim. And I'm saying, you as a person, there's something hypocritical about what you're doing. Because you have a problem with when Trump did it, but you didn't have a problem when Obama did worse. Now I can say, yes, I don't like Trump attacking the free press if he does it in the manner that this person said. That's fine. I can say that. Because I also had a problem with Obama doing it. Let me give an example that goes the opposite way. You had all these Tea Party people, right? They were against Obama's deficit spending. But now they're okay with Trump doing it. So when the next Democrat gets in and deficit spends and they go, ooh, these deficits, I hate these deficits. We got to rein these deficits in. This president's the worst. Their deficit spending is the worst. And I would say, now wait a minute. Did you say that under Trump? Oh, that's whataboutism. No, it's not, because I'm not criticizing the presidents. I'm criticizing you. Oh, am I getting too loud for you, Moonbeam? Yes. And I got this, I don't know why. Normally when I'm talking, I don't have this whiny, high-pitched voice. Y'all got to hear me sing karaoke sometime. I got an awesome, who do I do really well? Glenn Danzig. I do a great Glenn Danzig. So, now, you understand what I'm saying about whataboutism. Now, if you wonder why I'm talking about this, just check out that debate I had with Destiny, or have this discussion with any Trump hater, and you'll hear it 50 million times. Can't talk about Biden, that's whataboutism. So, in the specific context of what we're talking about now, impeachment, the target, when we're talking about this, when I'm like, but wait a minute, what about Biden's quid pro quo? What about the need to investigate Biden, right? All this stuff, right? Who is the target of that conversation? Is it Biden? Is it Trump? No. They're not the ones doing impeachment. You know who's doing impeachment? It's the House of Representatives. It's Adam Schiff. It's the House Judiciary Committee, the House Intel Committee. That's who the criticism's directed at. You, same people that are saying Trump's bad for the country, he broke the law, he needs to be impeached, literally saw Biden admit to this, know that he did it, and didn't have a problem with it. Now, I have a lot of opinions about impeachment. I'm sure you do too. I'm sure that the left-wing people do. That's fine too, right? Like the guy Destiny I talked to. Maybe if you're a left-winger listening here, or if you think Trump should be impeached, we all have our opinions. And those opinions matter and they're worth discussing. But the only ones that really matter are, I know this is going to blow your mind, the people that are voting on impeachment. The representatives. If they are being hypocritical, that's a huge problem. Now, if you've watched me for a while, you might have noticed a theme about me. What do I say probably once every video that I'm rambling about stuff that I'll end up saying this? I've said from the get-go, if Trump committed crimes, he should be held accountable for them. All I want is equal application of the law. That's it. If we're going to start bringing down people connected to Trump for failing to register as foreign lobbyists, fine. Manafort apparently did that. Okay, it's a crime. But when he did it with the Podesta Group, who's the group founded by Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, and they get to retroactively sign paperwork, while Manafort, the person connected to Trump, has to sit in solitary confinement, that's a problem. Lying to the FBI, supposedly Flynn did it, even though he didn't. He gets charged. Mills and Abedin and Hillary did it, no charge. Over and over and over. So this is the insanity that happens with whataboutism. We now know, apparently, if you believe this story, and I will say this, I'm a hypocrite in this sense. I always say, let's wait until we see this stuff come out. But I have talked about, and I am taking somewhat at face value, that apparently there is an FBI lawyer or agent, former one, that's going to be investigated for making up material on the FISA application for Carter Page. If that's true, I know the left will spin it. It's just one little guy and it's not a big deal. Dude, you're talking about the FBI, that CNN and all these places told us it's un-American to even criticize. One of their officials that were high-ranking enough to be able to influence spying on someone connected to a presidential campaign using opposition research from the other party. Someone who literally was in a crux of a position enough to help influence that by lying to ensure that FISA warrant happened. Did just that. They lied. That's unprecedented. That's incredibly scary. That's an abuse of power like we've never seen. Well, at least acknowledged in my lifetime. Now, we see that, right? We see all the leaders of the intel community. Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Strzok, Page, Baker, Rebecca, Weissman, Rosenstein. One after another, after another, after another. Contempt for Trump. Despise him. Leaking stuff to hurt him. Talking in chats about wanting insurance policies against him. Meeting with each other saying, oh, take notes when you're telling them about the P dossier so we can incriminate him later. Oh, wear wires so that we can get him out, right? We know all this. This isn't me making stuff up. We know this is all true. And so when I say, man, I have a problem with the way that they handled that Hillary investigation compared to with how they handled the Trump investigation. In the Hillary investigation, they went through the strategy. Again, I'm no expert. They'll say default to the experts, default to the experts. Here's something that I know, man. Here's how you don't run a criminal investigation. Okay, I'm District Attorney Noor. Here's my big plan. Here's what we're going to do. Or head of the FBI, I guess, in this case. All right. Head of the FBI, Noor. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give everyone immunity and then see if they want to voluntarily tell me anything. Okay, you have immunity. Do you want to sell out all your friends for possible crimes? No, I'm good. Thanks. Okay, no crimes, I guess. Moving on. Then with Trump, they did the exact opposite, which is what you would expect. We're going to get the lowest level people we can for crime, squeeze them as hard as possible, and see if they'll flip on people higher than them. That's Investigation 101. I've watched Law and Order. I know what's up. So when I start to talk about, look, this is a huge problem. This double standard is ridiculous. And I don't know how many times I've said this. You don't hear me scream and lock her up about Hillary. She probably should be in jail. She should be held accountable for her crimes. But that's less important to me. The real story here is corruption from the deep state. Not the specific candidate. In fact, I go further than most people. Let's take the Steele dossier. People say, oh man, Hillary's team paid for dirt on Trump from a foreign spy, from Kremlin officials. Oh, shame on Hillary. I don't think so. Whatever, dude. I didn't have a problem with Don Jr. trying to meet and get dirt on Hillary from Russians in Trump Tower either. Didn't care at all. What I have a problem with is the Obama administration and how they use that information. I don't care about the individuals as much as the corrupt system. And yes, for that corruption to end, the people that were engaged in that corruption need to be held accountable. But the people that benefited from the corruption, I'm not that concerned with. It wasn't Hillary that was in charge of the FBI. Who was in charge of the FBI? Comey, Rebecca, Baker, Strzok, Weissman, Rosenstein, and who was their boss? Barack Obama. That's where my concern lies with the investigators. I've said since October of 2017, if unverified opposition research was used by a sitting president to spy on the other party's candidate for president, it is the biggest political scandal in the history of our country. Remember, we're told Watergate was a big issue, where a couple of bumbling fools tried to look into Nixon's opponent's campaign documents. Now imagine instead of a couple bumbling fools that Nixon just used the FBI to put wiretaps, to spy, to collect any evidence that he wanted. That'd be a pretty big deal, wouldn't it? Like exponentially bigger than a couple bumbling fools in a hotel. I've said the threat from our intelligence agencies, the most powerful, sophisticated intel and investigative agencies in the history of the country, who could basically end every right you're given as a citizen of this country like that, in a snap of a finger. They could bankrupt you. They could charge you for anything. They could throw you in solitary confinement, take away your freedom. Just like that. Ask Flynn. Turns out, oops, all these lies and stuff. Or ask Carter Page. Reputation destroyed. Physically lose your freedom. Lose your wealth trying to defend yourself. Lose your privacy. Them influencing elections is you could take every country. You could take China, Russia, all the Russians, they're under every bed. The Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, the Brits, the Germans, the French, the Australians, the Italians, the Portuguese. Take all the countries together and how they might try to influence our election. That is a pittance to the dangers of having unelected intel and investigative officials trying to influence our election. Yeah, Hoover definitely did some. I should clarify two differences. One, when I'm talking about this corruption, I'm talking about basically in my lifetime. Though when I say it's the biggest political scandal in the history of the country, it is because we have proof of it. Now, Hoover might have done worse stuff, but it hasn't seen the light of day. Not like this. Now, what's this have to do with whataboutism? Because when you start to point out, am I the smartest guy in the world? Am I the best debater? Maybe close, but no. I'm not. I'm basically a normal guy, okay? But when I start to make these points to someone, 95% of the time the counter I get is, oh, that's just whataboutism. Who cares about that? That's all Fox News talking points. Instead of saying, oh, the specifics of this are damaging. Or the specifics aren't damaging. Instead, they're just like, nah, it's garbage. Whataboutism. Who cares what Hillary did? She's not president. Let's talk about Trump. Well, I'm not talking about Hillary. I'm talking about the people that investigated Hillary and the people that are investigating Trump. Or I'm talking about how the media covered the investigation of Hillary versus how they're covering the investigation of Trump. Or how the politicians recommended one thing based on the investigation of Hillary, but a totally opposite thing on the investigation of Trump. Those are the groups I'm talking about. And did you ever notice these people that want to yell whataboutism? Oh, what did Destiny tell me? Over and over, you hear from these people. Oh, just because I didn't like the bomb anyways. I say this all the time. This is a classic tactic because understand, when you're debating someone, no one wants to hear, I'm right about everything. Even if you are, no one wants to hear that. The average person's like, eh. So you could sound more reasonable by doing things like making yourself sound like you're not partisan, right? So if you're just like, I support everything the Democrats ever do, and I think Trump's a terrible person, then someone might rightfully be like, okay, but you're a little biased, right? But if you say, hey, I hated Hillary, I hated Obama, I hate Joe Biden, but Trump should still go down for this, okay, maybe that sounds more reasonable. The problem is, most of the time people are saying that, it's like, okay, but you didn't speak up when Obama and Biden and Hillary were doing this, did you? You didn't say a word. You kept your mouth shut and you said, oh, there's nothing to see here, scandal free. Yeah, they're kind of crappy, I don't like them, but And then as soon as they're out, you're like, yeah, I guess what they did was a big deal. I give the example of Juanita Broderick. Now we got this incredible Me Too movement, right? I gotta believe all women. Now, let me premise this by saying Bill Clinton, to me, should be given the presumption of innocence. I've said that about every single one of these cases. But based on the standards that those that control the media and the entertainment industry did, Juanita Broderick accused Bill Clinton of rape. Nothing. Worse than nothing. Right? That stuff can happen. Okay. Maybe times have changed, James Carville, there's this movie, it's called The War Room. Basically, Carville and Stephanopoulos, who's at, CNN now? ABC? Carville was like one of the head honchos in the Clinton candidacy, like working on Clinton's team. James Carville said, you don't have to take my word for this, look this up. Talking about Juanita Broderick. He said this in the media. He said, Juanita Broderick's what you get when you drag a $20 bill through a trailer park. In other words, this woman's a liar. She's a redneck. Throw some money at her and she'll say whatever you want. Now, maybe I say something like that. I wouldn't, but I could see myself potentially saying maybe this person was paid off, but saying it like that, I probably wouldn't. But even still, who am I? Some schlub. Maybe you hear your friends say that at the bar. One way or the other. Whatever. A dude running a campaign for president? Even in the 90s, that's a bit much. Remember the media flipping out about it? Do you remember? Oh no, in fact, James Carville movies were made about that. There's a movie called The War Room about how sophisticated and great they were. He was regular speaker on CNN. Did you ever watch the movie Old School? Great movie. Remember at the end when Will Ferrell joins the debate team and they're like, we brought, instead of the debate team, you'll be debating a special guest, Mr. James Carville. Right? Has he been blacklisted for saying something like that? No. Now people say, oh, I guess in retrospect, we should have said something about Bill Clinton or about James Carville. Constantly what they do. In the moment, they say no problem, and then years later, when they want to go after the Republicans or Trump or something, they say, wait a minute, how come it's a different standard than what it was before? Oh, you're right, we should have been more diligent before, but now we're focused on this. Okay, so next time it comes up with the Democrat, it'll be believe all women. Oh, yeah, we promise. We promise next time with the Democrat. Okay, Keith Ellison. Well, that one's different. Okay, back to a Republican. Yeah, maybe the Keith Ellison, once he's out of office, then we'll say, yeah, you're right, we should have looked into the Keith Ellison thing more. You're right. Once he's out of office, we can say that. You know, blackface. Oh, man, everyone who's done blackface, they need to get the axe, you know, kick him out of office. Can't be in the public life wearing blackface. Okay, what about Ralph Northam or Justin Trudeau? Well, you know, things are different then. And then as soon as they're out of office, the argument will be, you know, and they catch a Republican doing something like that, they'll be like, this Republican needs to go. Well, you didn't say that about Trudeau and Northam. Yeah, we were wrong. We should have said that. I mean, it's transparent what's going on. This is exactly what they did with Biden, by the way. Go back and read the articles that are defending Biden. Go read them. BuzzFeed and I can't remember what all. Go check out when this impeachment crap started. Like third, fourth day, I went through a bunch of articles. They're all citing, they all cite the same crap. Atlantic Council, all these other places, right? Every single one of them said something to this effect. They would say, so Hunter Biden, Joe Biden was trying to be the point man in ending corruption in Ukraine, and Hunter Biden got this job. Now, this had the appearance. It definitely had the appearance of a conflict of interest. Not the smart. It was actually a bad thing for this to be happening. But Joe Biden didn't do anything wrong with his quid pro quo. Well, that's funny, Politico and BuzzFeed and CNN and all of you other outlets. I don't recall you speaking up that heavily at the time. Now you're admitting, oh yeah, it had the appearance of a big conflict of interest. But you were silent when it mattered. Now you can retroactively say, yeah, I guess we should have said something. But anyways, defend Biden. That's what this whataboutism crap's about, right? Now, there are times where it's fair to say something's whataboutism. You're watching football. That's pass interference. Yeah, but did you see the Dallas Cowboy game? That pass interference? Okay, but that doesn't prove this isn't pass interference. But if your argument is these refs suck, they call pass interference for one team but not the other. Okay, then just saying whataboutism, you might say fair enough, but that's still a pass interference. It's the same with politics. So that's what's going on. What has this big hour-long rant been about? What am I trying to say? I am willing to listen to the other side. If you watch that debate with Destiny, the second half of it, which wasn't a debate, it basically just came down to, oh, you have to defend Trump's policies. Look, I defend why I voted for Trump in 30 seconds. It's real simple. I voted for Trump because I thought that he was a potential outsider. I'm tired of the establishment, and I thought this was a guy that they would come out guns a-blazing to do anything they could to stop him, and it would show the world just how corrupt these people are. Yep, that's exactly what happened. Happy with my vote? We'll be casting that vote again. Now, have there been specific policies, whether domestic or foreign, that I've liked of Trump? Absolutely. Have there been specific policies I didn't like? Yes. Do those policies occur in a vacuum? No. If there are a bunch of policies Trump did that I don't like, does that automatically mean I won't vote for him? No, because you're not just voting for Trump or not voting for Trump. You're voting for Trump or voting for someone different. So, for example, here's a policy I don't like of Trump, deficit spending. I think it's terrible, right? I really do. So you might say, oh, okay, well then you're not going to vote for Trump. Well, no, because I already told you my top priority. Second, I'm not going to vote for Trump because the issue I don't like that he's doing, deficit spending, who's going to be the alternative? Someone pushing the Green New Deal? Trying to spend $60 trillion? Now, if Ron Paul was running against Trump, okay, now we're talking. But that's not the case. And there'll be some, libertarian candidate that's probably terrible. Gary Johnson or Bill Weld or something. Just Republican lights that want open borders, whatever. So that's what the second half of the debate was. But I'm making concessions. I'm like, yeah, I agree. I'm not saying everything Trump did was right. No, I don't say that at all. I talk all the time. I have arguments. Understand where I live to. And I do think there's part of me that's a contrarian, which a contrarian is just someone that just, it's like, oh, what's the majority opinion? Yeah, I have the opposite of that. Like, not necessarily the best trait, but I think there's some of that in me. Like, I'm always rooting for an underdog in sports other than Pittsburgh teams. Fortunately, at least when it comes to baseball, the Pirates are always the underdog. So, but when I'm home, almost everyone around me is a Trump supporter. I actually have, with these people, I have more arguments about, look, Trump's not perfect. Here's some things that Trump did that I don't like. Now, you don't see that a lot on my YouTube channel. But what is the environment that my YouTube channel is coming up? Well, this is a form of media. And the media is almost completely dominated in Trump's evil, Trump's a racist, Trump's a Nazi, Trump should be impeached. But, like that crazy debate I had a couple weeks ago with that guy falling down. He's a Trump supporter. He's coming from the right of me. He's a Trump supporter who thinks it was a great thing that a Trump supporter slashed that balloon, that baby Trump balloon. That's a great thing. No. Even though I support Trump, I don't think that's a great thing, right? I'm trying to just catch up in the chat here real quick. But that's it. I'm not some crazy. My point is, what I'm saying here is I'm willing to hear the other side. I'm willing to listen to someone that disagrees with me. Someone who's like, hey, I'm a 2006, I'm a Hillary supporter. Here's why I think Hillary over Trump. I'm not going to just be like, nope, everything you say is wrong. I'll be like, okay, let's hear it. Yeah, maybe you had some points. I have enough confidence in my position that there's probably a 99% chance you're not going to convince me to vote for Hillary over Trump. But I'm willing to listen, and you might make me think more favorably in your position, even if I don't totally agree with you. And that's great. Maybe I'll do the same with Trump, and you'll still come away saying, I don't like Trump. That's what fair-minded people should do. That's what you should do if you're interested in the truth. If you're interested in good faith, debate, and conversation with people. Even if they disagree with you, you're like, fair enough, I'm willing to hear you out. But most of the time, that's not the courtesy given to us. Everything you say is wrong. Liar, Fox News watcher, you're a troll, you're a white supremacist, you're a Nazi. In Destiny's defense, he didn't personally insult me in that manner. And most people I talk to, well, I won't say, yeah, probably most don't. But they'll say everything you said was wrong. It's all been debunked. I hear that all the time. So, but yeah, that's what's going on with the debate, the impeachment stuff, right? Would we have Jonathan Turley, who's cool, and then 3 other people that were like, yeah, Trump should be impeached. Matt Gaetz asked one question. This could have literally been a mic drop. Do any of you have any information where you first-hand witnesses, or even second-hand witnesses, to anything involving anything at all about Trump and the Ukraine? No. Okay. Out. It was just a CNN panel. A bunch of, but they're experts, though. We have to listen to the experts. Where were the experts under Joe Biden? Do you remember them coming out and speaking? Were we talking to the experts then? Nope. Were the experts saying, wait a minute, a quid pro quo? We want to see the transcript of Biden and Obama's conversations with everyone in the Ukraine. Were they saying that? No, the experts were strangely silent. Yeah, and you're right, Michelle. That is the media, they're just repeating that phrase, that talking point. Oh, it's all been debunked. It's all been debunked. So let's talk about these experts. I didn't watch a lot of it, so I'm not going to pretend I did. The woman, I forget her name, Carlin, I think her name was. I mean, look, just strategically, if you're trying to, I think that we can all say, if we're being as objective as possible, even if you hate Trump and you really, really want to see him impeached, can we at least just try to be straight down the middle as far as, let's not talk about whether or not he should be impeached. Is it working, right? So going into Thanksgiving, I'm sure you had your meals with your family, and the people that hate Trump said they hate him and should be impeached, and the other people said they shouldn't, and blah, 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 blah. All I'm going to say is, I don't think that the first 2 weeks of the impeachment stuff moved the needle enough to make a significant impact on changing people's minds. Most people that thought he should be impeached probably still do. Most that thought he shouldn't probably still don't. And most that were unsure are probably still like, I haven't seen enough. I don't know about this. So then you're like, oh, okay, we're going to have the House Judiciary. They're going to call the experts in and tell us why. Okay. I think it's a bad move, but whatever. That's what you want to... Because inevitably, people get oversaturated with it. Just like 3 years of Russia, now this, now Pelosi's talking about Russia again. Eventually, people are like, you can baffle people with BS for a while. They're like, oh, okay, that sounds bad. But when every day it's the boy that cried wolf syndrome, right? Well, this is it. This is it. This is the time. Trump, this time, he went too far. The walls are closing in. Everybody agrees this is the most disgusting thing a president's ever done, ever in the history of presidents in any country ever. This is it. This is the most, oh my God, oh, it's so disgusting what Trump did. Oh, it's infuriating. I'm outraged. I'm ashamed today that our president did this. Right? And then next week it's like, now listen. I know last week we told you stuff was really bad, but this week it's really serious. It's like, I always get this idea, like, you'll be watching a commercial for, like, laundry detergent or something. Like, our laundry detergent shouts, it's the best at getting out stains, man. It'll get out all your stains. Here's our commercial. Do grass stain. Oh, you fell in the mud. Shout. It'll get it out, man. Shout. And then, like, sometime down the road, you're watching a commercial and they're like, now the new Shout, extra powerful. Turns out the old Shout sucked. This stuff's really the good stuff. And it's like, okay. Like, at some point you're going to be like, are they telling the truth here? Let me read this real quick. Robert, you wouldn't have been very upset if they tried to impeach Obama. It depends. What for? I've heard a friend of mine make a compelling case for possibly impeaching Trump for bombing Syria. More compelling. I'm willing to hear it out. This would be, if they tried to impeach Obama, for example, if they tried to impeach Obama because he was caught in a hot mic telling Russians, after the election, I'll have more flexibility, I would have been like, this is a joke. Nope. And I don't like Obama. It would have been a joke. If some career neocon, some John Bolton disciple gets upset because Obama would have came out and been like, look, we're going to pull out of Afghanistan. I'm tired of these foreign regime change wars. And someone was really upset in the State Department that really wanted that war to go on. So they started leaking details of Obama's phone calls. I would have been upset and against that impeachment. Of the stuff, like, the real crimes that possibly Obama committed are the Russia investigation, which was at the end of his term. And even though they're crazy and there should be a criminal investigation, I would have probably been against impeachment because it's like, dude, this is July of 2016. We're 5 months out from an election. Like, I don't know that Benghazi was impeachable. I mean, what part of it? The actual part of people dying and the decisions? No, that's not impeachable. It's a bad decision. It reflects poorly on him as a leader. Disgusts me. That's not impeachable. We don't impeach people for making bad decisions or not being good at their job. Lying about it? Saying it was about a video? That sucks. Gun running. Like Fast and Furious or gun running in Libya. It's a tough question. I guess my most honest answer would be sure. But I also have to know, I bet Trump's administration's doing some crappy arms dealing, gun running. I bet Bush did. I bet Bill Clinton did. I bet H.W. Bush did. Bet Reagan did. There are things that every administration's done that I wish we actually had a system that held them accountable for. But we don't. So it's a hard sell to be like, let's impeach Obama for what we know that Bush was doing and Clinton was doing. Instead, we should just say, look, this is corrupt. We need to stop this crazy, corrupt gun running stuff. No more. Get Congress on their job to pass laws saying you can't do this. Or a media that actually outs this sort of corruption. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, Michelle. My understanding of it was just they were legally running guns. They got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and so they just basically cut their losses, let Ambassador Stevens and those people get killed, and then realized it was really bad optics going into an election, so they lied about it. But maybe there was more to it. I guess I haven't investigated that. What I've heard about it, my version's disgusting enough. Maybe it was part of their plan to leave Stevens get kidnapped. I don't know about that. Should he be impeached for revealing Smith Munt? No. Probably not. Should have been voted out for it. Should have been lambasted. I mean, do we really think that W. Bush wasn't allowing propaganda, even if the law, technically, he didn't repeal the law? Of course not. I mean, I don't know. I'm not big on impeachment. I'm just not. Most of this stuff is disgusting policies that similar things are done all the time, and it needs to end. It's like, but if we impeached Obama, fine, then we should impeach Trump. If he does gun running, or if he's doing things to allow propaganda, I want consistency, even if it means the person I voted for going down. Like, I honestly mean that. So anyways, this Carlin lady, this is, before I get off on that rant, here's why I'm talking about her, right? All I'm saying is, objectively, I think the Democrats need to move the needle further on impeachment. So, just strategically, here's how you do that if you're going to go this path of bringing on experts. You want people that look like experts. And what do experts mean? Why are Pelosi and all of them running around? Did you see this ridiculous video today of Pelosi? I don't hate anyone. I don't hate Trump. I'm a Catholic. What a joke. But they're trying to put this thinly veiled, this is a very somber, we're very upset to have to impeach the president, right? Because they realize they focus grouped in, they've talked about it, the people selling the narrative, the people whose job it is for the Democrats to sell the narrative to the people realize this is the best way to do it. Don't act giddy, don't act like a kid at Christmas, you want to act like this is a very somber occasion, right? Well, you need to continue that theme with your witnesses. Well, they weren't witnesses, with your experts. Of course, they're not experts either, so. Right? So you want some tweed suit wearing man or woman, or, very stoic, like, yes, it's someone who sounds like a constitutional scholar. It's very troubling that this happened. I think that Trump, possibly went across the line. This could warrant impeachment, blah, blah, blah. That's the type of person you want. You don't want a person that's like, and by the way, Trump doesn't get to make his son a baron, even though he named him Baron. Little word of advice, Democrats. Now, do I care? No. Whatever. But it just shows this woman's not serious. She's not non-biased. She couldn't be any more biased. Just like all the State Department witnesses. Oh, we were all upset that Trump considered not giving this aid. He was going against established foreign policy. He is the established foreign policy because he's the president. He's the one who sets it. He's the one that was elected. Not you, Vindman. Not you, Taylor. Not you, Fiona Hill. So that was her. She said, she was said previously, she couldn't walk on the same side of the street as Trump Tower. She said, I saw on Tucker Carlson, she had a clip from 2006, talking about how we need to show old white rich people, blah, blah, blah. What does skin color have to do with anything? She's a loon. She donated to the Democrats. She's a big social justice-y academic type that you'd expect to run into in every major campus. Totally an ivory tower, no dissent, just a bunch of people talking about how impressive they are, patting themselves on the back, agreeing with each other. They all hate Trump. Okay, big surprise. You brought in someone like that. Then the next guy, I forget his name. He said he was skeptical of impeachment until he saw the transcript and things like that. And again, I saw this on Tucker. Only problem is he talked on social media places about the need to impeach Trump for using mean words, the need to impeach Trump for policies that he didn't like. He talked about impeaching Trump for like 3 or 4 other instances. So just ask yourself this. Regardless of your impressive credentials, regardless of where you got your degree from or where you're teaching at now, how many years you've been involved in it, regardless of that, if you have a person that says, I think that Trump's mean words are reason to impeach, I really don't care what their opinion on this is. Because clearly they're nuts. Or, more honestly, they're biased. You had the Intel Schiff impeachment stuff. Then you had the Nadler. Even I was surprised that the Nadler House Judiciary impeachment was 1 day. That's it. I didn't watch it all, but I saw highlights. I didn't think it was particularly compelling. Again, I think people that thought Trump should be impeached, put it this way, I don't know anyone that would look at this and be like, well, I was on the fence, but now I'm swayed one way or another. Because I heard a bunch of people that didn't have any access to any of the evidence say, yeah, I think it's important. I don't think that anything was swayed. But they only did it 1 day. Why do you think that is? Short impeachment, very concise. Next week, we could have a vote as early as next week. Anything happening next week? Anything you can think of? Why would the Democrats, why do you think Pelosi and Schiff and Nadler, what might be their interest in making sure this happens, the vote happens next week? Could it be, I don't know, that we were told this is when the IG report's going to come out? Now, God forbid, all the media people that told us, you can't criticize the FBI, you can't criticize the intel communities. It's un-American. It puts sources and methods in jeopardy. Lives will be in jeopardy. Right? That's what they told us. God forbid they have to report a story that says, wow, an independent investigator did a story and said, we'll see what it says, but it's definitely going to be critical. It's going to show there were a lot of things going on that shouldn't have went on. If they meet the threshold for criminality or not, we'll see what the IG says. Thank you for tuning in to me here at the Anderson Cooper Show. The IG report was released today, and it says that there were some things the FBI handled improperly. They should have done better. Breaking news! The vote on impeachment. We have 12 people here with the panel about impeachment. Oh, impeachment. Oh, man, impeachment. And then it won't be Anderson. It'll be someone on the panel that'll say, well, I think that they did this IG report to distract from impeachment. That's what this is about. They planned this to distract from the impeachment. Yeah, I hear you clearly, Clever. Mark my words. You heard it here. That's what's going to happen. I must be clairvoyant. You want lotto numbers? I must be a genius. How am I right about this stuff all the time? Nope, no genius, no clairvoyance. Just predictable old propaganda media. No big deal. Yeah, you're right. Clearly, Clever. I know you're being sarcastic, but you're right. They already did their best to downplay it, right? The last thing I'll say about impeachment, and then I'll talk about the IG report a little. Did you see Schiff released phone record details of John Solomon, the reporter? Do you understand how big of a deal that is? We were told, like, just for reference, we were told when Trump told, what's that guy's name? Jim Acosta. Remember Jim Acosta's making an ass of himself at all the press briefings? And Trump, like, put him in timeout for a month. Was like, yeah, you lose your credentials for a month. You can't come. And the media went nuts. Even Fox News, right? Which they're a joke as much as anyone. Oh, the president, members of the press, and this is bad. It's the First Amendment in the press, and oh my God, blah blah blah. You remember that? Did you hear him tonight? One of their fellow journalists has won awards. Not a journalist like me that somehow I get a nice press pass printed out and I'm like, no, it ain't me. Though I shouldn't be treated that way either. But an actual credentialed journalist who's saying stuff they don't like. Had details of his phone leaked. The data showing that he had talked to Rudy Giuliani. That is of a magnitude so far greater than Trump complaining about the press or putting Jim Acosta in timeout. An incredible threat to actual journalism. Now, if Solomon was accused of a crime or something, maybe that's different. But he's not. He's not under investigation. He's not accused of a crime. If Trump did this, it would be outrageous as well. But it was Schiff. It was the Democrats. It was the people that complained Trump talking about the press is damaging the free press, but them leaking it. So, what's their defense? Have you seen the defense? Their defense is, and I think I read this on the Daily Beast. Oh, the Wall Street Journal. Talking about the dangers of releasing this. Guess what, Wall Street Journal? You're wrong. There was nothing wrong done here. And you want to know why? You want to know why there's nothing done wrong? See, they didn't subpoena John Solomon's records. They subpoenaed Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani's records. And so then they released them. And yeah, he called Solomon, so that got released. But that's totally legit. Do you understand the stupidity of this argument? It's the same garbage they always do. It's the same garbage they did with why did they want a FISA application against Carter Page? Remember when they leaked the details of Flynn's conversation? They said, "Oh no. We weren't listening in on Flynn. We were listening in to the guy Flynn was talking to." And then we released the details of that guy. It wasn't about Flynn. It was the guy Flynn was talking to. But seriously, did you hear what Flynn said? Same with Carter Page. They're able to then listen to everyone Carter Page talks to and another step. So by getting contact and spying on Carter Page, then they could get basically everyone in Trump's orbit. See you, Cheshire Cat. Thanks, man. Or woman. So that's the excuse. Oh, did they have to release it? Let's say you did. Okay, let's say Giuliani and Lev Parnas are under investigation. So you're going to release, Schiff's going to release details of phone calls that they've had that possibly look relevant to the impeachment scenario. So maybe calls they had to people in the Ukraine and things like that. What is the relevance of talking to John Solomon? Because presumably, I'm just guessing, right? I bet Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani probably called other people that Schiff didn't release the details of. Like maybe their wives or their families, or maybe they have a niece and they said, good luck at your spelling bee, Why weren't those released? Well, anyone with half a brain knows. Because look, he's just releasing stuff that has to do with the impeachment. No one cares about your personal calls, your life story. No one cares about that. So then why did they choose John Solomon? Why did they choose to release that little detail? What's that about? What's the relevance? Well, Solomon's doing reporting they don't like. Sullivan's being an actual journalist. He's actually talking to people in Ukraine. And so they're throwing the implication out there. Oh, well, Giuliani's a criminal and Lev Parnas is a criminal. And they're talking to this guy, John Sullivan. And John Sullivan's talking about possible corruption by Biden. Sullivan's a hack, which has been their strategy the whole time. That's exactly what's going on. I don't know if there's metadata or not. I know that Schiff claimed. I mean, Sullivan's also claimed that he's heard credible allegations that Yovanovitch and other people in the State Department were monitoring his social media and other calls. That's an incredible abuse. We're always told the media, they'll stick together even if it's, their side. Apparently not. They're silent in this. You see, and this is constantly, like, let me give you an example, a more clear-cut example. There's this guy, Douglas Murray. I really like Douglas Murray. British guy, talks about a lot of the dangers of, mass influx of refugees, violent Islam, and stuff like that. Real quick, I'll give you my take on Islam, because this is something that gets brought up a lot. You ready? Here goes. Here's my really what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It slipped me because I'm tired. Controversial. Here's my really controversial topic on Islam. I've personally known 2 or 3 Muslims. One of them kind of scared the bejesus out of me. One of them is the nicest person I've ever met in my entire life. I think that there is a problem with extremist Islam. I think that it is clearly more problematic than the other major religions we see now. I agree that there's only a small percentage, maybe 2 to 3%, that act with terrorism and violence. But considering there's billions of people that engage in Islam, that's still a big number. However, that number is not even the scary number. The next group, the 18 to 20% or so that actually condone the violence, that's what's scary. You're talking about hundreds of millions of people. That's what's scary. Yes, there are bad Christians. Yes, bad things happen in the Catholic Church. Yes, I'm open to talking about all of that. But the reason that Islam is especially important to call out in the extremist nature of it is because it seems that the powers that be are trying to make it taboo to talk about. And anytime you're not allowed to criticize bad ideas, those bad ideas have a chance of getting much more powerful. That's it. That's my controversial take. Now, you might be saying, but Rob, I'm a Muslim. I'm watching this. That's not me. Cool. I grant it. I agree. I'm not going to judge you because you choose to be a Muslim. At all. Not at all. That's it. That's my opinion on Islam, right? Anyways, this guy, Douglas Murray, he says, he's talking about being in the UK, and he says, I'm sick. He's gay. Douglas Murray is gay. And he's like, I'm sick and tired of people coming up to me, and they're like, oh, you're gay. We hate, the religious right and how they treat gay people. Grab me a vicar. Grab me a priest. And I'll give them what for. And he's like, shut your mouth. You'll do what the virtue signaling. You'll do what's safe. But you ain't going to do that in a mosque, are you? This is a problem I have in the political world and just with people in general. It's easy to say things. It's easy to run your mouth. Actions. When things are on the line. When you have skin in the game, then what do you do? How about this example? The NBA is quite vocal about injustices, right? Political injustices. Very critical of Trump. Spoke up on, Black Lives Matter and police brutality. The NBA has been very good on that. They've been very vocal. China. All of a sudden, see, it didn't cost the NBA. It didn't cost LeBron James or Steve Harden. What's the coach for Golden State? Greg Popovich with the Spurs and Steve Kerr with Golden State. They're always complaining about police brutality and Trump and this and that in the United States. That don't cost them. In fact, that helps them. Because all the corporate people, they're in with that ship. Yep, that's good. That's good for the brand, good for the brand, good for the... That's helping them. I get some virtue signaling points. I get more money and viewers into the NBA. That's all good. So sure, it's easy to be brave, quote unquote, when there's no stakes. But then the first time that there's stakes, okay, you make all this money in China. The exact same thing you're criticizing, authoritarian brutality. Right? Now's your chance. Speak up. You got skin in the game this time. They say, nope. Yes, I'm worth hundreds of millions, but I still need more millions, so I'll sacrifice my dignity. Everything that I've said for years about, police brutality and stuff. Oh, what's that? China's shooting protesters in Hong Kong? Well, I don't know enough about the situation to comment. We should all just keep to ourselves. You see? When there's skin in the game, always. Sometimes you'll see someone who makes a tough choice, right? Another example I always use about this, Norm Macdonald, one of my favorite comedians, right? He's doing this, I saw this video, Tim, Roseanne Barr, and another person. The show's called Last Comic Standing. It's basically like American Idol except for comics. So this guy gets up and he does this comedy routine, and then, I guess the way it works is so many get to move on to the next round. So this guy's routine, he was a gay guy, and he's like, I'm sick and tired of people telling me about the Bible and how it's against gays. If you're going to quote from your book, I'll quote from the Harry Potter books. And he tells like 5 minutes of jokes. It's like, you say, Psalms 13:12 says blah, but I say Harry Potter, Goblet of Fire, chapter 6 says blah, blah, blah. And everyone laughs, and Roseanne's like, yeah, it was great. This was pre-Roseanne being blackballed. And Norm Macdonald's like, yeah, I didn't like it. And Roseanne's like, what? And he's like, I didn't think it was brave at all. He's like, everybody does this. You come in, you're in a liberal city, a bunch of left-wing people, and you're crapping on Christianity. Okay. It's not brave. It's not edgy. He's like, the edgy thing would have been to stick up for Christianity in this crowd. If you're in a church, then maybe it's edgy. When is there skin in the game for you? Anybody in Hollywood putting their career at risk by coming out and being like, yeah, I don't like Trump. Nope. It's not going to affect the prospects of them getting work. But they come out and say, I like Trump. Now all of a sudden, skin in the game. You see the difference? And that's what's infuriating. So what am I talking about? These journalists that pat themselves on the back, and I say this all the time, the free press is so important to this country. We're the greatest. We're awesome. We're going to have a White House Correspondents' Center. We're going to celebrate the press. We are the last bastion of hope for the citizens of this country. We speak truth to power. We're the greatest. The Founding Fathers knew how important we were. Oh, our job's so important. What do I say all the time? I'm like, all of that is true. Free press is important. Unfortunately, we haven't had one for years. So all the self-bloviating, all the glad-handing, the high-fiving, we need the free press, we all have to stick together. As soon as it could go against their game, against their side, their narrative, they're like, we have nothing to say. It's okay to attack the press if it's our side doing it. Me Too movement, right? Oh, believe all women, believe all boys. Then you started to hear all these people in the press that were accused. Oh. Whistleblower, protect all whistleblowers. ABC getting the whistleblower who outed that they covered up the Epstein story fired. Whoops. That's what I'm talking about. The Bernie Sanders, all the socialists, right? Everything they suggest for you, they're unwilling to do themselves. Remember, Bernie? Millionaires, people who make millions of dollars are unethical. They're bad. Hey, Bernie, you made millions of dollars. I mean, billionaires are unethical. Us millionaires are cool. In fact, what I'm really trying to say is everyone who makes $1 more than me is unethical. But the amount of money I've made is perfectly reasonable. Let's see. I'm not very good at impressions. Let's see. If I do a Leo DiCaprio. I don't even know how to begin. The climate is going to destroy the world, and we need to solve it. Now I'll get on my jet and fly to a luncheon. I'm going to have a peach Bellini. Not very good. Let's see. I was thinking of Great Gatsby. I don't know. So, yeah, that's it with impeachment. We'll see what comes of the sham. I've given my piece. The last thing I'll say in impeachment is, please, 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 if you could find anybody who disagrees with me, who's willing to talk about the facts, please, I would love to have him on the show with the impeachment stuff. Okay. What was I talking about with the elections? I said about Pelosi. What I've written down here. Did you see the, kind of on this issue of when there's skin in the game, right? The hypocrisy. Another way of saying it, it's connected to it, is they always accuse you of what they themselves do. And I used to think this in debate a lot. Like, I remember my first day in college. I was a communication major. I think I was saying earlier. Maybe my third or fourth class, but I had this. Maybe it was my second semester. Regardless, I had this professor I really liked, younger guy, and he seemed to be. Sometimes I really like younger. I guess I don't want to stereotype. There's professors of all sorts I like, but sometimes you can see a younger professor. It's like they're still into it. Maybe if you've been doing it 30, 40 years, you're like, it's a job. But this guy was cool, and introduction to like kind of media, global media, stuff like that. And he asked us at the beginning of one class, he really liked to get a debate going, getting the discussion going in class. And he's talking about stereotypes. And he says, how many people in the class will use stereotypes? And that was probably a class of 22, 23. And I raised my hand, and I was the only person. And he's like, okay, we'll discuss, basically. And we started discussing. And basically, it was a bunch of people telling me I was crappy, that we shouldn't use stereotypes. And I was like, well, I don't think that's true. And I was like, hear me out. Here's why. I've never been to China, right? But I have an idea what China looks like. I have an idea of what Chinese person looks like, what a Chinese clothing outfit looks like, Chinese city looks like, Chinese food looks like. Some of it I've seen. I've seen American Chinese food. I've never seen Chinese food, right? That's a stereotype. My feeling on stereotypes is it's okay. If I see a guy who's 6'8", I'll probably think, and he looks like, he's not a skeleton. I'm like, hey, this guy's probably pretty good at basketball. I could be wrong. All sorts of stuff. The key is you try not to use that stereotype to judge, especially when alternative information is presented to you. So just a quick example of this. I had a friend from Algeria, and we got stuck in an airport. Real cool guy. And he says, we're just passing time. He's like, Rob, what do you think Algeria looks like? And I was like, desert, yellow sand dunes, the occasional like tropical tree, ferns, but basically arid, dry, And he starts showing me these pictures of this beautiful, lush place. It had like all these cool like Greek monuments in it. Because I guess near where he lived, Alexander the Great came through, right? I was like, wow, that's amazing. It's beautiful. I had no idea. He wasn't offended. He was like, yeah, I hear that all the time, but I just wanted to show you my pictures from my home. I just realized, why am I wearing these headphones? I'm not listening to anyone. An hour and 40 minutes. Unreal. But, that's it. So we all use stereotypes, right? That's the point I was making. And these people were like, no. We don't use stereotypes. It's just not true. We all do. Now, you can call that what you want. What makes you a racist then? What makes you a sexist? Or what makes you prejudiced? Well, it's if you use stereotypes and your prejudgments in a way to treat people like crap or to treat them in a negative manner. That's my definition. I don't think it's necessarily racist to say, I assume Asian people are good at math. Well, it's not racist because it's backed up by facts, But
Even if it wasn't, like, whatever, I don't care. Even if you can call it racism, I guess, if you want. I'm not going to quibble about the semantics of it, but I don't think it's that bad. It's that harmful. Like, racism would be like, I don't trust someone because their skin color or their sex, or, well, race would be skin color and so. So anyways, why am I saying that? No one's perfect, I get it. And we all, to some extent, can say things at times that could be considered racist or prejudiced or sexist or homophobic or whatever, right? A lot of times it's in the context of joking around or things like that. Like, I won't even tell this joke, but this comedian I like, Doug Stanhope, he has a big rant about homophobic jokes. And he's like, dude, it's not homophobic. One particular homophobic word, he's like, it's not homophobia to me. It's just a word I use. I like it. And if you're a guy and you're gay and you have a problem with me using that word, I will have some sort of relations with you after the show because I'm not anti-gay. But like, I give a pass to most comedy, and you can tell when someone's like telling a joke and it's like this person actually has contempt for a certain race, or it's like it's just a funny joke. Anyways, why am I bringing this up? I'm just trying to start by saying I understand that sometimes things can be taken out of context, right? And I personally try to give the benefit of the doubt as much as possible. So, for example, when Ilhan Omar said about, Jewish money in politics, I was like, look, she's probably an anti-Semite, but I don't know that. And I don't think this statement is evidence of anti-Semitism, because you theoretically could say that and be like, no, I just have a problem with like lobbyists for Israel putting money in politics. That's a reasonable position. I think sometimes people go too far on the other side and they say, oh, we can't criticize anything like for someone in Israel because, they could lead to X or Y. Now, there is Louis Farrakhan's an anti-Semite, So I try even to give the left the benefit of the doubt on this. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Kamala Harris drops out of the campaign, and the narrative we're being given by a lot of people on the left and the media is it's because of racism. This makes no sense. At this point, it is abundantly obvious to anyone who has even the slightest interest in politics of what's going on. The people running as Democrats, this is how it always works. This is how it worked in 2016 with the Republicans, right? It would have worked with the Democrats, except Hillary was anointed. You get a bunch of people, and in the primaries, they're all running to their side as far as possible, basically. So Republicans are all running to the right. Who has the most right-wing position? Democrats are all running to the left in the primaries. And then when they win the primary, they try to come back to the center because you're trying to get those independent voters. You know that everyone, if you're on the left, you know that basically everyone on the left is going to vote for you and not the guy on the right. So now your job is to try to, so, if the scale's from here to here, you run into this edge in the primaries, and then you're coming back towards the center to get people because you got everyone on this side of you or everyone on this side of you, right? Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute, Michelle, right? Okay, oh, that's what she said. It's all about the Benjamins, yeah. Whatever, I didn't think it was anti-Semitic. Anyways, so everybody knows that. So then, what we're saying is the decisions that's being made in the primary right now are the Democratic voters. It's the left, right? It's not the right. They don't care what I think as a Trump supporter, right? I won't even give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe they will legitimately care after they win the primary. Maybe they'll say, hey, Rob, what do you think rural Pennsylvanians are traditionally very conservative? What are your issues? That'd be great if they did something like that. They probably won't, but you get it. But right now they're not talking to us because they know the game, the way the game is, it doesn't do them any good to talk to these people on the right. They're talking to the left. They're talking to the Democrats, the people that vote Democrat. So on face value, the argument that Kamala dropping out is because of racism is literally the average Democratic voter is racist. That's their argument. That's the point you're making? I do snore like a freight train at night. That is true. But that's the argument they're making, right? Do you see how insane that is? But wait, it gets even crazier, right? Because it turns out that black Democratic voters support Joe Biden way more than Kamala Harris. So even if you could believe, well, here's the problem. Here's why Harris wasn't getting support. It's because she's a black woman. And all of these white people in the Democratic Party just aren't ready for another black person. They're just not ready. Not ready. So they're racist. They don't want the black lady, so they're voting for Joe Biden. But then when you realize, like, well, actually, the vast majority of the support she's getting is from white people. Disproportionately, she's losing black people. So now is your argument, black people are racist against other blacks? No, it's not just one or two people saying this. Only white candidates left after Kamala. Kamala and Booker, the only ones that are doing well are white candidates. Why is that? What is it about the distrust of black people? Are you saying that the black voters distrust black people? Because the majority of black voters are supporting white candidates. So I heard a guy on Tucker last night try to explain this. Now, here's this guy's point, right? Follow me here. He says, here's what's happening. The reason that blacks aren't voting for Kamala, they would be. They want to vote for Kamala. But here's the problem. They know the whites won't vote for Kamala because they're racist. So they've already decided to coalesce around Biden and other white candidates because they know that the white people in their party won't vote for black people. Do you hear how insane this is? So presumably then, if Kamala would have bumped up to 18% and she would have been getting huge amounts of white support, which at one point she was. At one point she's rising in the poll. If this theory is true, right? So let's say, all the black people are sitting around, because they all think alike, right? That's, as this person will have you believe, that's where the racism comes in, which is the end of this story. So all the black people are sitting around and they're like, hey, us, our big black family here, we really want to vote for Kamala Harris, but she's only at like 6%. So, and then the first debate comes around, and remember Kamala Harris, bam, she smacks Joe Biden, force busing, blah, 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 blah. And the media went crazy. They're like, oh, Kamala Harris, whoa, she just showed that old white man, bam, she got him. And she started going up and up in the polls. When at that point the black community would be like, finally, she's going up? That point she was in like, what, third, close to second? If all the black support, because remember, all of them wanted to vote for Kamala. It was just they knew whites wouldn't. Why wouldn't they at that point when they saw these whites voting for Kamala? They said, that's it. If we jump on the Kamala bandwagon now, boom, it puts her over the top. Why didn't they do it then? And then, you don't think it could get any dumber, right? This guy's defense, because Tucker's like, this is stupid. What proof do you have of this crazy? What have you talked to people? Like, where's your proof? And he says, here's my proof. Because Obama won. Obama won because a bunch of white people voted for him. And that proves, and then blacks voted for him too. So that proves the blacks were just waiting for the whites to vote for a black person before they'd vote for them. And Tucker didn't make the obvious point, which is, dude, so your point is quite literally this. You have your average Democratic voter who 2008 and 2012 votes for Obama. Then they become racist and decide, now we won't vote for a black person ever again. The blacks are so shrewd. One, they're all monolithic. They all think alike. But second, they're so politically astute that they can see the writing on the wall that the whites in the Democratic Party are racist. They know that even though they voted for a black person in 2012, they would never do it again. Not in 2020. So, instead of backing the black candidate that they really want, they back Joe Biden. If that's your take, and remember, I defended Ilhan Omar and stuff earlier. If that's your take, you are a racist. And it's not only one of the dumbest claims I've ever heard, it is one of the most bizarrely racist claims I've ever heard. Black people all think, white people are all racist, so you're already judging white people based on their skin color, but you're also judging black people based on their skin color. that they all want to do this. I guess they're too, can we say they're coward? The blacks are too cowardly to vote for another black? Or if they're just so shrewd? I don't know how this stuff's taken seriously. But when you hear this, when you see this come out, right? Now it makes sense why they call you racist about everything, right? Because they're racist. When your entire worldview revolves around what is the skin color? What is the skin color? What is the skin color? You start to think the people that disagree with you, you know what their worldview revolves around? What is the skin color? What is the skin color? What is the skin color? And so then you say, because I view everything in racial terms, they must view everything in racial terms. So they're racist because I'm racist. But my racism's okay because I'm racist against the right groups of people. Yeah, I mean, Dan, you're right. Like, and this is something I talk about, the stupidity of cultural Marxism. I don't know if I think I was talking about this on the SJG's live stream I did with him earlier. But here's the deal, right? Yeah, cultural Marxism is just we take you, every group that you belong to, all of the like superficial qualities of you and others, and we break it down into a category. You're either an oppressor or oppressed. So you could break on gender lines, you could break on sexual preference lines, you could break on religious lines, on ability lines, on skin color, on gender. If I didn't already say that, I probably did. One of those groups is going to be the oppressors, the rest are oppressed. White people oppressors, every other color oppressed. Men oppressors, women oppressed. Straight people oppressors, non-straight oppressed. Able-bodied people oppressors, disabled oppressed. Native-born American citizen, not Native American, but like you were born in this country, oppressor. All others oppressed. That's it. Simple worldview, right? That's how they believe. So they say, racism, racial lines. Then, of course, you have the oppression Olympics. What category matters most? Because the truth is all of us are going to be part oppressor and part oppressed. No one's going to perfectly fall in one category or the other. So, for example, me, I'm white. Ooh, that's bad, oppressor. Straight. Ooh, it's bad, oppressor. Man. Ooh, bad, oppressor. Fat guy. It's oppressed. Okay, ham up the fat guy stuff. Victim, right? So, Dan, when you're saying, right, where was your comment? Let me go back up here. They talk about this stuff, and not only are we all in these groups, but here's why cultural Marxism is stupid, right? Here's the real super inside secret stuff. You ready? This is going to blow your mind. Not only is it stupid to separate based on these categories, we're all individuals. Not only, and this takes a little bit of thinking through, but if you really think through it, ultimately, what ends up happening is, as you play this a victim and oppressed Olympics, the ultimate victim, the ultimate oppressed is the individual. In other words, we could parse these differences so far out that inevitably you yourself, there's never been anyone exactly like you and you're the victim, which ironically is basically the rest of us in the world's position. Judge us all as individuals. If we're all equally victims as individual and the individual is the ultimate victim, then all we should care about is the individual, even if you care about victimhood, right? That's the end game. They just don't realize it. And if you have questions about that, think about it this way. Like, I'm a lesbian, so I'm oppressed. But I'm a black lesbian, so I'm oppressed. But I'm a black trans operative lesbian, so I'm more oppressed. Okay. But I'm a disabled black trans, right? But I'm a disabled black trans lesbian who also thinks I'm part horse. Yes, but I'm a disabled black trans, thinks blah, blah, blah. It just keeps going and going and going. The victimhood Olympics, right? Who cares? I don't care. It's stupid. It's dumb. But even if we accept their premise, right? This is the best part. This is what you never hear anyone talk about. So we accept their premise. Yes, we have to separate into categories and talk about oppressors and oppressed. Here's the dirty little secret. Even under their framework, here's the truth. All these categories that you're separating as oppressor and oppressed, the truth is the categories, not just the individuals, but the categories are actually almost every time oppressors and oppressed. Now you might be saying, wait, what? It sounds like a lot of jargon. Let me make it real simple for you. White people are oppressors? Maybe, but they're also oppressed. And I don't just mean the individual white person. I mean, there are situations depending on what you're talking about, where you're at, when you're at, right? So are we talking about 1800s, Soviet, we're talking about 1800s Great Britain versus today, United States versus Australia 2,000 years ago. When you are, where you are, what culture you are, what specifically in that culture you're talking about, all of that factors in as to whether or not there's advantages to being part of this group. For example, let's just take race. It's probably your in-group preference if you happen to be white in the United States. In general, why is that? Well, because the country, there's more white people than other races, what we call white. Okay, makes sense. But if you're white and you're in a country that's not majoritarily white, like China, then it's probably not your in-group preferences. And there are some advantages with an in-group preference. Same skin color, same time, different country. Okay? But it's not even just that, right? Because even in that, let's limit it to just the United States and now. So we're just talking about now in the United States. There are still times where it's advantageous to be white in the specific situations, and there's times where it's disadvantageous. Or put another way, times when it's disadvantageous to be black, but then there's times where it's advantageous. What's a time that would be advantageous to be black, all things considered otherwise? How about getting into an Ivy League school? Now you might say, yes, but your chances of having a higher IQ are less if you're black because you probably grew up in a poor community. So, okay, but nonetheless, we're talking about two people with the same IQ. That's the best way. All things the same, as close as possible, except the skin color, right? That's the idea. That's how we tell if that criteria, skin color, that's what we're saying. The white are the oppressors and therefore have the advantage. The black are the oppressed and therefore are disadvantaged. So what's the best way we could test that hypothesis? Well, we break it down to as similar as possible, except that one difference, right? In this instance of trying to get into an Ivy League school, the black person has the advantage. Right? What Dantech's talking about is, in politics, don't be confused. People will cite general statistics. They'll say there are less black people in politics. Well, there's less black people in the country. Yes, but even proportionally, I don't know if that's true or not, but let's assume it is for the sake of argument, because it's Steel Manning, my opponent. There's still a lesser proportion of, compared to the proportion, what is it, like 13% of the country's black and less than 13% of politicians are black. So that's still bad. Okay. But if you happen to be black, in all things considered, you have white politician and black politician. They're both very similarly credentialed. Just the skin color is different. It's advantageous to be black. No doubt. And I believe that's what Dan was trying to say there. No doubt at all. There are some people that won't vote for you because you're black. That's probably true. There are racists out there. But there are more people that will vote for you because you're black. Is that a horrible thing? I don't know. You can make your own judgment on it. Now, I know people say, that's racist. That's not racist. That's just true. Now, I'm willing to concede. If you get pulled over by the police, in general, yes, you probably are prejudged worse by that cop because you're black than if you're white. Now, the question is, are there more negative situations because you're black than there are positive situations because they're black? Probably in this country, I'll say that's probably the case. But that doesn't mean that it's always oppressed. That's not the truth. That's oversimplified. Right? Here's an easier example, right? You might say men economically do better than women, right? If we look at general statistics, forget all the stuff that I know you probably know, but wait, that has to do with job preference and all this. Let's just say in general, just looking at the average man makes X, average woman makes X in totality. The men probably higher than the women. But if we just focus on that, we ignore the fact that at the very bottoms, the people that tend to be the most poorest or have the most difficult situations tend to be men. Also tend to be the ones, most Fortune 500 CEOs and things like that. So we ignore, by looking at the general, just the overall general statistics, we get an image that's inaccurate, because then we think, well, then what's wrong with those men on the bottom? What are they doing? To give another example, like here's the difference between men and women, right? If you're, and I personally know that, I know people that have gone through this. If you're a woman and you go to nursing school, you have it far more difficult than if you're a man. Why? Because there's a demand for male nurses, because there's not many of them. Conversely, if you're a woman and you want to get into law enforcement, there's a demand. So you'll have a better chance. Being a woman's advantageous to you because there are less women there. So if you are a woman with that skill set and interest, that's advantageous. Just like with a male nurse, just like with a black politician. So what does this all mean? This argument that Kamala she would have won if it wasn't for a race is a freaking joke. It's unbelievable. I get sick of that. It's the same with women. Oh, like let me give you they say this about she couldn't win. Hillary didn't win because of the glass ceiling because she's a woman. Dude, I literally remember watching the same people making that argument saying things like this. Did you see the way Donald Trump approached her and tried to shake her hand? Oh my goodness, that was so great. He was lording over. You can't do that to a woman, blah, 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 blah. How about this? Here's what I think. I'll treat women like they're every bit as capable as men when it comes to things like politics. And so I'm not going to say, I can't shake your hand in the way that I normally would. I can't stand in the way I normally would. Yeah, I mean, it's just the truth, Michelle. Does that mean that the system's terrible and blah, blah, blah? I don't know. Make your own judgment. But it's just reality. Here's another. While I'm on it, this is off the subject. But the point of this whole rant was, this idea is unfreaking believable that people are trying to claim. It's racist to claim that the Democrats are all racist. That's why they didn't vote for Kamala. And it's stupid we have to keep pretending, if you're black and you're a woman, that's this huge disadvantage. No, it's not. Well, maybe with the Republicans, BS. The Republicans would love a conservative black woman. They would love it. It'd be a huge advantage for her because the conservatives would be like, yes, you would have some racists that would probably be like, no. But those racists are outnumbered by people in the Republican Party that would be like, dude, this will help us so much in a general election. Because there's a lot of people that will say, okay. No, we shouldn't. In the perfect world, you wouldn't say the race wouldn't have anything to do with it. I personally saw this. In the election I ran for in District 12, I can't tell you how many people said, I like you, but I'm going to vote for one of the women because I think we need a woman in the Republican Party. Okay. I doubt there was one person in the election I ran for. I doubt there was one that said, you know what, I like this person the best, but she's a woman, so nope, I'm going to vote for Rob. Now, having said that, I thought some of the women that ran were great candidates. I thought I was the best, but you see what I mean? So that's my point, Kamala. Now, real quick, while I'm on this rant, and I'll probably be ending here soon, but while I'm on this rant about cultural Marxism, I would love to have this debate with people about how racist law enforcement is, right? I've yet to hear a compelling answer to this. So one of the problems with the left and this idea of cultural Marxism, which I kind of hit on tonight in both the videos I've done, is there comes a point where all of these disparate groups end up, when you're putting them in the oppression Olympics, they end up going up against each other, right? So like women versus trans. Their goals don't always align. women feminists basically make the argument there's a patriarchy, and the patriarchy sucks, and being a woman's special, and a woman has all these special abilities, and they have all these special characteristics that make them women, right? It's a feminist argument. Trans argument is there is no such thing as a difference between men and women. So you see it in the real world. You see it literally in athletics, that like it's the clearest way. So in the name of social justice, we have to pretend that there's no physical difference between men and women. And so trans people compete against women in like weightlifting and dominate them. And then the women that are first are like, yeah, we want to be inclusive. Now you're thinking, I trained my whole life for this, and now I'm nothing. I get dominated by someone who just came in. Sucks. That's the oppression Olympics. That's cultural Marxism eating its own, right? Now they try to get away from this. They try to solve this problem. Because you might say, how can the same group that's advocating supposedly for gays, right, also be advocating for Islam? By any objective measure, traditional Islam's harsher on homosexuality than Christianity is, yet the same party represents both of those. How can that be? And this type of stuff happens. So the way they solve this is through this neat trick. It's called intersectionality. And the idea is this. We all have to band together. All these groups have to band together because we're all oppressed against this image of the evil oppressor. And the evil oppressor is that it's all those groups. Like Donald Trump would be the avatar, that wealthy, he's wealthy, he's white, he's straight, he was born in this country, blah, 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 right? That's one of the reasons there's so much hatred to Trump, right? Just one. So they all come together. Look, as a Muslim who hates homosexuality and thinks it's a sin, I'll work with you, my gay brother, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And it's those white people, it's those Christians, or whatever, right? That's kind of the argument. Okay, now I've set the criteria for what I'm talking about. That's intersectionality. That's what most people believe. That's how you end up with most feminists would also support Black Lives Matter. Well, why? What does one have to do with the other? Well, when you start to realize both are considered oppressed groups and they understand they need a coalition, right? That's the idea. Okay? It sounds complicated, but it's real simple. Okay? Fair enough. Now, Black Lives Matter. What is the kind of crucial claim to Black Lives Matter? It started, I'll be as generous as possible to it. I think it started as the idea of police violence, particularly shooting unarmed black men, okay? But in general, the general theme about it is just police corruption towards black people, okay? I think that's fair to say. I think if there was someone from Black Lives Matter here, they would say, yeah, that's it. There might be more specifics, but that's it in a nutshell. How do we go about proving that, right? I mean, sure, anecdotes and stories, driving while black, you hear that stuff, but they point to the numbers. Right? That's their defense. That's the data, right? And the data shows, percentage-wise, blacks are incarcerated more and blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm smart enough to know a little about statistics, not even knowing about statistics, just being a person in the real world that knows correlation's not necessarily causation, right? So we have to look at other factors. So, for example, I could say, me and everyone in my house, we drink chocolate milk, but the neighbors all drink white milk. And the neighbors all make more money than us. Therefore, drinking white milk means you make more money. No, it just so happens, right? That's not causation, that's correlation. So you say, well, are there other mitigating factors, right? Remember how I was talking about, let's try to equalize everything except skin color when we're talking about politics? So if you had a white politician and a black politician, both kind of similarly qualified, making similar positions, it'd be more advantageous to me. But you're trying to even out all the other variables, right? Same here. So you say, oh, okay. So black people, yes, the data shows what you're saying. Data that, black people are incarcerated more. But there's all kinds of reasons why, or that, the unarmed blacks are shot more by cops proportionally or whatever. So you have to ask questions like, are they committing more crimes? Are they living in areas where more crimes are being committed, which means that they might be more likely to have hostile encounters with police? This isn't racism, by the way. In fact, it's the opposite of racism. I care about the black community. Here's something I care about: black victims. When you start to cite statistics and you're like, nearly 50% of homicides in this country are done by You know, black males younger, basically. Oh, you're a racist. How dare you bring that up? I didn't say it's because they're black. There's all kinds of factors. Most of them are in extreme poverty. Most of them are in single-parent households. You'll say, yeah, but poverty's in rural places too. Yeah, but poverty mixed in with that many people in a closed system like that, you know, put that many people fighting for resources, fighting to get by. You don't have a two-parent household. I can understand, right? I get it. I'm not saying it's a race thing. It's that's where those people have, that's where a lot of these murders, those people have to live. My neighbor down the street is a black guy. He's more in common with me as a white guy because where we're at, our community, our education level, our jobs, our families, right? That stuff's all more important than the race. Conversely, you put me as a white guy and I grew up in a similar situation as the people in the inner city with these black, then I'm more like them than I am. What you see what I mean? It's not the race. It just so happens to be. We should look at these factors before we just assume, oh, the answer is racism. The cops are racist. And if you say what's racist to say a disproportionate amount of murders are committed by blacks, how about this? How about we don't use the word murderer? Let's look at the victims. Would you say it's also racist of me to say that one of the reasons I'm concerned about this is that about 50% of murder victims are that same group, young black men? I think that's appalling. We're letting that community down. I don't know what the answer is. That we could talk about that. We should be talking about solutions. But the way to get to those solutions is to be honest, to do our best, to take us where the facts lead, as opposed to just saying, oh, racism, that's the reason. It's racism. Okay? So I'm getting winded here, long-winded. Brevity, not one of my strong suits. I need to get better at that. Okay? So I'll say, well, look, should we look at these other factors? And they say, no. You can't look at those or it's racist. Here's all you need to know. Black people get incarcerated more than whites. And here's some of the criteria, though. Are they more likely to be charged with the crime? Are they more likely to be convicted of the crime? Are they more likely to get a longer sentence? Is their conditions in jail likely to be worse? Let's just take those 4 criteria. And it is true if you look at the numbers. Now you might say, yeah, but also because of the other factors that we said, there's probably a better likelihood they're poor. Therefore, they're less able to afford an adequate defense. It's not because of their skin color, it's because of their poverty. Doesn't matter. These people just say racism, Black Lives Matter, say, nope, it's a racist system. Okay. Because we're just looking at the raw data on those 4 categories. Likely to be charged with the crime, likely to be convicted, likely to get a longer sentence, likely to have worse conditions in jail. Okay? Let's take those 4 categories. Here's what I've never heard explained. Now keep in mind, the feminists, because of intersectionality, they're on board with this. There is a group, if we're taking categories, that far surpasses the difference between blacks and whites in more likely to be charged with a crime, more likely to be convicted of the crime, more likely to get a larger sentence, and more likely to have worse conditions while serving out that sentence. You know what that group is? I'll just give you a second to see if you take a guess. More than the discrepancy between blacks and whites, it's this group to this group. Now, this might shock you. All right, you ready for this? It's men to women. So I'm just pulling numbers out of my butt, but let's say here that the difference is a black person's 10% more likely to be charged with a crime than a white person. A black person's 10% more likely to get convicted than a white. A black person's 10% more likely to get a longer sentence. Black person's 10% more likely to be put in a facility that's worse conditions than a white person. Okay? So if we're just looking at the data, it's like, oh, that's bad. Right? It's like, men are like 40% more likely to be charged with a crime than women. Men are 40% more likely to be convicted than women. Men are 40% more likely to get longer sentences. Men are 40% more likely to have more terrible conditions in prison. But wait a minute, I thought this was a patriarchy. How does that make sense? Where are the Men Lives Matters movements? Now, I bring this up to people. Here's the 2 answers I get, right? Answer number one. But men commit more crimes. Do you see the insanity of this? No, Michelle, take white out of it. Don't just, if we're the cultural Marxists, they break us into groups. Men versus women, white versus black, right? All this, right? So let's not focus on just category to category this time. If we say our system is, racism is just a form of prejudicism, right? Favoring one group or disfavoring another, punishing another. So if we say the raw data shows that we have a racist system, a racist legal system, because this raw data shows blacks have it worse than whites. But if it shows that men have it way worse than women, then clearly we have a sexist legal system, sexist towards men. And the argument for Black Lives Matter is because we're talking about law enforcement, it's dehumanizing. This is one of the most important issues. So therefore, this is one of the most important issues when it comes to gender. So we have a sexist system. Yes, clearly clever. This is what I'm talking about. So the first answer that you get, I know you're being tongue-in-cheek, but the first answer you get is men commit more crimes. That's true, by the way. And we can have psychological data as to back up why, and all sorts of reasons why that's the case. Economic reasons, social reasons, psychological reasons, But do you understand the insanity of the person who makes that argument? That person just got done telling me when I said, okay, well, let's look at possible factors as to why this number is the way it is with whites versus blacks. Could it be possible that the more crimes are being committed in the black community, or there's other factors like economic factors, social factors, not being with the parent, like, right? And they say, no, even look at that's racist. So then why can't I make the same argument? Oh, you say men commit more crimes than women? Sexism. That's sexism. And the sexism is more of a discrepancy than the racism. So more than the police are anti-black, they're anti-men. Right? Why doesn't anyone talk about that? The other answer I get, by the way, it's kind of what you're getting to here is, well, okay, but to be a black man is the worst. But that wasn't the original argument. The argument was just looking at this category. We now know being a man is worse than being black. So at the very least, does that mean we can tell black women to shut up? They don't have a voice in this? White women have the least voice, followed by black women, followed by white men, followed by black men. How's that? Is that fair? Shut up, black women? You don't understand? You're not a man? Now, I'd never say that. It's outrageous. But that's their argument. We don't want white people in our Black Lives Matter movement, right? Isn't that their argument? And yeah, clearly clever. You're right. Like that, yes, men do commit more crimes. But it just goes to show the insanity of just saying, oh, we can't look at the factors behind the data. All we can do is look at the data. So the same group that's telling us how we live in a patriarchy and it's all to benefit the men, and simultaneously, black people, the country's so terrible because our law enforcement's racist, they have no problem with the fact that law enforcement's sexist using those same criteria. This is the kind of crazy double standards I'm talking about. I've yet to hear one person give me a reasonable argument. Here's the real answer. Like, look, I think police get crapped on a lot. I think that there's this narrative about police that they're all these horrible authoritarians. There was this guy, I think his name's Garth Ennis. He was a comic book writer. And I remember once I watched this thing with him. It was crazy. He's into he called it sigil magic. But he's like this really weird eccentric guy. And it was at this anarchist club speak or something. And it was weird. It was entertaining to listen to. I didn't buy any of it necessarily, but he starts talking about law enforcement and police. And this is basically to an like not anarchist, but like counterculture group. And he's like, police, and everyone's like, boo, boo. And he's like, look, can we at least acknowledge there is a need for police? Like, we as human beings need some sort of law enforcement. Unless you're a way out there anarchist, yeah, you believe that. And then his next point was, I don't want to be a cop, do you? Nope. I want to be a punk, you know? And so he's like, you know, maybe we shouldn't crap on these people too hard. And which goes with what my thought is, which is like, I think, you know, I personally know cops that are awesome people. I know there are bad cops. I also know, I'll go a step further than a lot of people say that, but I'll say it's tough. Even if you're in a group and you know there's a rotten apple in your group, it's tough to out them. Like, I've seen Serpico. I know how hard that is. But I think all of us could agree. I think there was a movement. There was a groundswell for like people being upset about police corruption when it exists. I think you can get on board with that. You get people on the right and the left. They're like, yeah, we don't like this. But then you throw race into it. Nope, now that's all that matters. Race could have been a small part of it. Maybe. But nope, now that's all it is. It's all race. So then, now you're like, okay, well, I guess if I have to choose between all cops are racist pigs that I need to hate and we need to overthrow the system versus cops are good, I guess I'm closer to the cops are good side. And so we're fractured, which is the idea, by the way, of this cultural Marxism. That's the entire point. Fracture us, get us at each other's throat so that we give them the power. Because here's the last thing I'll say about cultural Marxism. Here's the dirty little secret. Well, ask yourself this. Talk amongst yourselves. What's the best oppressed group? Is it race? Who's more oppressed? Women? Gays? Blacks? Muslims? Who's higher up on the list? What's the top criteria for the list? Number one, a facto. It switches. Maybe the cause of the week's maybe it's race this week. Maybe it's religion next week. Maybe it's sexual preference next week. Gender, trans, whatever, But the one thing that never changes, it's on the tippy top. That matters more than all those groups. All of them. Is, do you agree with the leftist politics? Are you a leftist? Do you believe in cultural Marxism? Notice that one's a little different, right? That one's about not what you are, but how you are. Not something superficial like skin color or something sexual preference. That's how you choose to be, the content of your character, what you believe. That's the tippy top. The tippy top. Because, you know how I know that? Have you ever heard of Kanye West? Or Ben Carson? Or Kellyanne Conway? Or Peter Thiel? Ever heard of any of them? Peter Thiel's gay. He should be treated great by the left, right? Ben Carson, Kanye West, they're black, should be treated great. Kellyanne Conway, she's a woman. Sarah Palin, woman, should be treated great, right? They're victims. But they're not. They're treated with more contempt. How can that be? Because that's what it's about. It's about that power. It's about giving that group the ideology. If you get all this power, the victim, the power of being the oppressed, of being the victim, and it's hugely powerful. You get social standing. Victimhood is probably our highest criteria for social standing in many circles right now. Used to be things like capability, honesty, integrity. Now it's victimhood. I hear stories from my dad and stuff. It's like, man, when back in like the 50s and 60s, like let's say you were having you lost your job or you got sick or you were having problems with your family. The last thing you wanted was for people to know. Almost to a fault. You kind of kept it buttoned up. Now it's you can't wait. Oh my God, I'm a victim. Thank God I'm a victim of something. Woo! Elizabeth Warren's, she's desperately trying to be a victim. I'm a Native American. Oh, I was fired for being pregnant. Oh, she makes up. Why is she making up these stories? If it's so disadvantageous to be a person of color, in politics, why is Elizabeth Warren for years fighting tooth and nail to portray herself as a person of color? More than all of that crap, all that victimhood, if you want that power, if you want it, there's just one little thing, just one thing. You got to agree with them. And if you don't, and you fall in one of those traditionally oppressed groups, you will be attacked harder than any of the, quote, oppressor groups. So Kanye West is a black person who doesn't buy into this crap. He's going to get treated far worse than someone like me ever would. Because to me, I'm just, the regular old oppressor, screw him. We don't have to listen to him. But Kanye's the big threat to them. Kellyanne Conway's the big threat. Peter Thiel's the big threat. Candace Owens a big threat. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who escaped Islamic countries as a victim of female genital mutilation. She's a big threat. Why? Because they disprove their entire worldview. Because if you're black and you're not oppressed, well, then maybe the idea that all blacks are oppressed is garbage. So, yeah, that was it. Oh, thanks. I am going ham. It's a little late for ham. Maybe tomorrow for lunch. So I'm wrapping up here, though. I really am. I'll be done by 3 probably. But thanks for sticking with me, everyone. I really appreciate it. Just 2 more things I wanted to talk about election-related. On this vein, did you see Mayor Pete Buttigieg come out and say, what did he say? He said, people that voted for Trump are either racist or they're intentionally ignoring the racism. 60 million something odd people racist. Many of which voted for Obama in the past, racist. Now this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, there are some people that are playing the game, right? The game in the Democratic Party. I talk about this a lot, right? Why is there tension between AOC and Nancy Pelosi? Is it because AOC is far to the left of Nancy Pelosi? Is that what's going on? No, that's not what's going on. What's going on is Nancy Pelosi is every bit as much to the left as AOC is, basically, right? The problem is AOC isn't as politically shrewd as Nancy Pelosi. And Pelosi understands, yes, we both have the same agenda. We both want this incredible power. We both want anyone who doesn't agree with us crushed. We both want this incredible, huge government with all this power. We want to control we want an open border, basically. We want to control the entire energy and economic sectors. We want to institute our crappy SJW stuff, right? They all want that. But Pelosi understands you can't just lead with that. You got to make it gradual because the most American voters are going to be like, what? No. But AOC doesn't have that tact. So that's where the tension is. Well, in that same vein, there are people that understand, like, dude, Biden ain't going to make it. There's a good chance he's not. Why is Biden popular in the first place? Why was there a push for Biden? Because Biden's seen as the moderate. Because a lot of Democrats understand, look, dude, if we put Bernie or if we put Warren, there are going to be a lot of people that are like, these plans are nuts that they're coming up with. And they're not going to vote for it. So we might want to go in a direction with a moderate. Now, who's one of the moderates? Yeah, well, Biden, but clearly he has his problems. He ain't going to make it. Biden ain't going to make it. Yeah, and I'm with you, Clearly Clever. Pete Buttigieg, though. Now, look, you got to be honest about Pete. Smart dude, well-spoken. He has a look of a politician. Young, but kind of can have an appeal to younger people. Moderate. but not moderate. Not at all. He's trying to pretend to be moderate. He's got the media selling him as moderate. He ain't moderate. Is it moderate to say everyone who doesn't vote for your party is a racist? Is that moderation? Yeah, I get it. Yeah, a little pun there, Michelle. But just remember that. I still think I've said it's going to be Warren. I don't know. You know, I'm sticking to my belief that it's going to be Warren, but it could be Mayor Pete. And if it's Mayor Pete, Trump will be right to every day run a campaign ad that says, "Here's Pete Buttigieg saying you're all racist if you voted for me." Yeah, I mean, Mayor Pete's basically everything better than Beto. He's got a better name than Beto. Didn't have to fake it. He's young like Beto. He's seemingly hip like Beto. He's gay. That's a spot up over him, right? He's smarter than Beto. He's more well-spoken than Beto. You know, so just remember and you know, I don't understand why you would do this. Like, what's your, like, just aside from the immorality of it and just the crappiness of it, like, what is Beto, or what is Pete hoping to achieve here? You can vote for someone who's like, hey, if you don't vote for me, you're racist, and the way you voted last time means you're racist, or you're intentionally covering up for racists. I mean, it's just like Hillary. They can't help themselves. They can't. Just like that Carlin woman I was talking about in the impeachment hearing. They can't help themselves. You just let them talk and they'll show you who they are. Just like Alyssa Milano. She can't help it. When it's scripted, it sounds all right. Oh, you know, the kids in cages and the illegals and DACA and the dreamers and oh my God. Yeah, I hear you, Melissa. That sounds really good. Do you have anything else to say? I mean, who's going to scrub my toilets? Whoa, what? Soon as they get into a crowd, I don't have to worry about this. You know how I did when I was running for Congress? You know, here's a neat little trick. If you're running for politics, or if you're doing a YouTube stream, right? Or just anything like that, right? Anything where you're going to be in the person, where there's a potential for you to be seen by the public, right? Let me give you a little tip. This is going to blow your mind. You ready? Here's how you make sure you don't get caught up doing stuff like that. You ready? Just be yourself. See, I don't have to worry that someone is gonna drudge this video up. They might try to take it out of context, right? But when I'm speaking in front of a bunch of Trump supporters, I'm not worried that someone on the left's gonna come in and hear it, because I'm like, yeah, I say that publicly. And I'm not someone who's like, I think everyone who doesn't vote for me is a crappy person or a racist. I think there's good reasons to maybe not want to vote for me. Maybe my lack of experience. Maybe you don't like some of my policies. Maybe you just prefer someone more on the other side. Those are all reasonable. So I'm not going to sit here and say you're a disgusting, crappy person if you vote against me. Simple. But Mayor Pete couldn't do that, could he? As soon as he got in a room with lefties. Oh, the other side's all evil. They're all crappy. They're all racist. Then the only other story I had written down to talk about, it's just funny, whatever. But it's along that vein. Did you see the Biden campaign? I mean, it's always the reaction to stuff that's so stupid. But so there's two parts to this story. What's this woman, Simone something? So the first part of the story is this kind of older gentleman who happens to be a little heavyset. He starts asking Biden a question, and yeah, you got it, Buzz. Yeah, he starts asking Biden this question. And granted, it's a little bit of an aggressive question, but basically, in a nutshell, the guy's like, dude, you like claim to be against corruption and stuff, but you basically were having your son, while you were doing this, work on the board of this corrupt company in Ukraine. You know, what's up with that? And Biden's like, this is all lie. You didn't hear it on MSNBC or something like that, he says. And he says he's meandering. And then eventually he calls the guy fat. He's like, listen, fat, or something like that. Now, I don't care. I happen to be a fat guy. It's not like I'm here like, what? Wacko, you like all our colors? Like, no, I don't care. I don't care. You know, whatever. You may, you may, you can call out the hypocrisy of it. You could say, wait a minute. When Trump did this hand gesture he always does, they said, oh, I was making fun of a disabled person. That's terrible. And they're also the same group that says fat shaming's bad, but they're okay with that. Okay? So, yeah, there's hypocrisy to it. And you might say, dude, if you're running as the candidate that's like, oh, I'm more even keeled, the problem, the way Trump talks, he's brash, and I'm not like that. Maybe not the best thing to say, but at the end of the day, whatever. Stupid. I voted for Trump, so I'm hardly going to criticize a candidate for making insults and stuff like that. But, and here's the but in the second part of the story, it's not what he said, it's the damn cover-up. So his campaign person, this Simone, whatever, comes out and says, oh, no, he didn't say fat. He said fact. Now, he didn't. He clearly said fat, but okay, she's claiming he slipped of the tongue. He literally is saying, like, 30 seconds before that about leading a sedentary lifestyle. Then he goes on to issue a challenge for push-ups. So it is clear, based on the entire context of what Biden's saying is, he's saying, you're an out-of-shape bum. You're sedentary. You don't move because you listen to Fox News and you believe these conspiracies, is what Biden's saying. I can beat you in a push-up contest, fat. That's it. And it's like, oh, don't yank my leg. You called the guy fat. It's not the end of the world. Just say, I shouldn't have said that. I was heated. I thought he was attacking me and my son. Now, Biden deserves to have these questions asked, but nonetheless. You know? And then this woman, Simone, I didn't even realize. Once I saw her, because she's the one who says it on Twitter, so everyone starts giving her crap. Then, when I looked at it, I'm like, why does this woman sound familiar? She's the woman. Do you remember there was the story about, like, some girl going into school, and she had a Trump hat on, and all these girls beat the crap out of her, and then there was this guy that had a Trump hat on, and he got drug out of his car and got beat, and so she was on CNN, and they said this, and she's like, she literally did something like this, oh, poor white people getting beat up. So you got a racist running your campaign, who's now saying, yeah, I saw that with Yang, too. And here's the thing, right? Like with Yang and Tulsi, I actually kind of liked Yang and Tulsi. Not that I agreed with everything they said, but my politics is weak. For someone who talks about politics a lot, I surprisingly don't focus a lot on policy as much as you would think. I do. Like, I'm concerned about the policies, and I argue what I think are good policies or not. But I think my number one criteria, let me put it this way. I could vote for someone who had policies that I disagreed with because I thought they actually care about the constituents. And we just have a disagreement with how to help the constituents. And the reason for that is two things. One, because I feel the state of our politics is so toxic and crappy that a large portion of our politicians don't really care about the people they represent. And second, because most of them don't, on either side, don't have policies that I like on specific issues, like deficit spending. That's why I like Ron Paul, you know? Ron Paul didn't have the charisma or the energy of someone like Trump, but for him, it was like, yes, these policies, they're great, yes. But if someone doesn't line up with you that much on policy, then you're like, okay, policy is still important, and it is to me, don't get me wrong. But I'm willing, if there's someone who I just like, like there's someone, let's say I happen to just totally agree with Jeb Bush's policies. I'm sorry, I don't believe Jeb Bush had my interest out of it. So even though his policies seem to line up with me, I might be more willing to vote for someone else whose policies are less like mine, but I think they actually care. So Yang and Tulsi, even though the policies is like, I was like, interesting, different, but no longer. Yang for two reasons and Tulsi for a big fat one. Yang, it's because Green New Deal stuff. I mean, the guy basically admitted he wants to tax meat out of existence and that we shouldn't be allowed to own cars. or under his economic policy, we wouldn't own cars. I don't know if you've been to rural Pennsylvania. We don't really have an Uber or taxi. So that's kind of a big, you're basically threatening to have total control over the economy and change our livelihoods completely and make us the San Francisco of middle Pennsylvania. Nope. Sorry, Yang. And then the second was well, there's other things too, but the second big one was like the impeachment stuff being for it. And that's the big thing for Tulsi. I prefer Tulsi's foreign policy, I think, to Donald Trump's. I really can say that honestly. I'm not a peacenik, but I hate these foreign regime change wars. I don't care what Trump supporters tell me. He's wrong. He's right when he says I want to pull out of Syria. He's wrong when he says except leave troops to protect the oil. That's crap. He was wrong to bomb Syria. But Tulsi's worse on domestic. She's got all the social justice crap. But still okay. She seems like someone of integrity. I could listen to her. Except now she doesn't seem like anyone with integrity. Maybe she's hiding it. Maybe not. You know why I know Tulsi doesn't have integrity? Because she's going through the exact same types of attacks that Trump was. She's a Russian stooge. That's what Hillary said, right? It's the exact same type of attacks. What did she say about Trump? Oh, yeah, impeach, investigate. What did she say about Kavanaugh? Oh, yeah, investigate. Tulsi was never going to win the Democratic nomination. You know how I know? Because she's not establishment. She's not. Here's the number one criteria. You got to be for the foreign wars, right? Yeah, I'm heading out in a minute too, Blase. Thank you. You got to be for the foreign wars. Well, Tulsi, she's not that. The intel community don't like that. So she don't have a chance because the intel community runs the Democratic Party, or at least they're in cahoots with the people running it. So I tell all my left-leaning friends that, they were against the Iraq war with me back then. We were in college together. We were all against the Iraq war. They keep saying, I've changed. I voted for Donald Trump. I keep saying, you've changed. As soon as Obama got elected, you didn't care about the wars anymore. And I say, if you still were truly anti-war, let me tell you something. By backing the intel community, by backing all these warmongers, neocons, and neolibs that are trying to take Trump down, you're sharpening the sword that will eventually be used to take down people you like. No. I don't even have to wait. How's Jill Stein doing? How's Tulsi Gabbard? Good luck with that monster he created. So, yeah, Tulsi's a hypocrite, and it's sad because she could have came out and been like how hard would it have been if I was running Tulsi Gabbard's campaign? She wasn't going to win. She's not going to win the Democratic nomination. She could have won in 2024, though. Not just the nomination. She could have won the presidency. Here's what Tulsi Gabbard should have did. If I was running her campaign, it would have been the simplest thing in the world. Should have came out and said, you know what, I applaud Donald Trump for trying to pull out of these wars. But it's easy to run your mouth. Let's see results. And this idea of staying to keep the oil and stuff, that's crap. And by the way, I have tons of differences with Donald Trump. I think he's terrible on this for the economy and this. And I think some of his comments are disgusting. But these attacks from the intel community and all these groups are ridiculous. These smears as Trump as a pro-Putin stooge is ridiculous. And we need to start to recognize, even though I hate Trump and think he should lose, we need to recognize that if we continue to smear anyone who questions the idea that we need to be increasing xenophobic towards Russia and increasingly hostile to these countries that they want us to be, we're going to be in a really bad position. If Tulsi would have said that, she keeps her integrity. She shows she hates Trump. The Democrats, most of them are still going to love her for that. She wouldn't win in 2020, but she's not going to anyways. And then, especially if Trump wins in 2020, she comes out looking like a rose. Here's someone at the Democratic Party that had integrity. Now when they're cleaning up the tatters of the Democratic Party, who would you trust to re-lead it? Tulsi seems like a good one to me. And then even people like me, depending on who would be nominated by the Republicans, would be like, okay, I'm willing to hear her out in 2024. Certainly more, moderate independents would be all for it. That's it. That's all she had to do. Instead, She says, when people were accusing me of being a Russian asset, that's terrible. How dare they? I demand an apology for Hillary. Blah, 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 blah. The media's treatment of me has been terrible. Blah, 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 blah. Yang the same way. The media's treatment of me is terrible. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, but the media is great, and the same people that are smearing me are great when they're doing it to Trump. We should impeach him. Let's investigate Kavanaugh based on these rumors, too. Just stupid. It's just the dumbest thing ever. So, yeah, I saw one of you saying earlier about wanting a liberal to debate me. I'd appreciate if you could. I'd love to debate like David Pakman or someone on impeachment. I mean, more than I would prefer a raging liberal, I would prefer someone who's at least has some integrity. You know who I'd love to talk to? Jimmy Dore, Aaron Mattei, Glenn Greenwald. These are all left-wing people that hate Trump, despise him, want him out of office desperately. But they've been against the entire Russia collusion hoax and this impeachment hoax the whole time because they understand what I'm saying. As left-wing people, they understand. I did not know that, Larian, but about Tulsi. But they don't, you know. I'll never get to talk to Jimmy Dore and them. I mean, they're blackballed. You see him on Glenn Greenwald and Aaron Mattei. They'll go on Tucker. They hate Tucker. They probably think Tucker's a racist because they're crazy SJW people. I saw Ron Paul on Jimmy Dore's show. That's the dirty little secret, by the way. I'll leave you on this. It doesn't take a genius. And I'm sure other people have said this, but did you ever stop and realize, what are the two groups in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party that were both considered offshoots and were, maligned as being outrageous? You had on the left, you had Occupy Wall Street, and on the right, you had the Tea Party movement. Now, definitely I'm more for the Tea Party movement than Occupy Wall Street. But here's the funny thing. They probably agree on 80 to 90% of what they're complaining about. Both of them are basically complaining about regular Americans getting a raw deal. Both of them are complaining about the elite screwing us over. Now, they have different thoughts on what to do about it or who's really responsible. But the problem they basically agree on. Right? That's the same way that I feel about Trump and Bernie. In a weird way, they couldn't be more different personality-wise, and some of their policies are incredibly different, but what they stand for is very similar. It's kind of populism. It's anti-establishment. And if you start to realize, like, wow, Jimmy Dore hates Trump. I really support Trump. But we both have integrity. I think he's wrong about a lot of stuff. He thinks I'm wrong about a lot of stuff. But we both care about the country. We both care about people. And because of that, we can draw common ground. Those are the people I like talking about. We can have disagreements. Yeah, I've been called a Russian bot. Yeah, I met a Ukrainian once, which I guess just as bad now. This guy I met, he was not only Ukrainian, but he was the first person I ever met that was pro-Soviet Union. His family was doing much better under the Soviet Union than in the Ukraine after the collapse, which is kind of crazy. But of course that's going to exist. No matter how crappy a system is, there'll be people on top, and there'll be people that suffer when that system collapses. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, I get called, and I will say, in the interest of fairness, when I criticized Trump for bombing Syria, I literally had Trump supporters. Literally. And this is after I've been doing my channel. I had Trump supporters who had watched me do video after video personally write to me and tell me, we knew it all along. We knew that you were a Hillary Clinton supporter. We knew that you were just waiting to throw Trump under the bus. Are you kidding me? So it happens on the other side too, though it's definitely worse. Definitely worse on the left, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'll leave you with that. I might be doing some sort of videos tomorrow. We'll see. But it's been long enough. I've been talking for almost 4 hours now when you consider the other videos. So I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to wake up and watch. What am I watching? I've been watching Ray Donovan, but I'm supposed to wait until my wife's home. She works tomorrow. So I don't know. I'll find something to watch. But thank you all. If you haven't already, I got to do this stupid spiel, which I apologize for. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please, if you can, follow me on Twitter. It's @NorRobert, which is just my name. If you could recommend me to some people, I would really appreciate it. I'm still attempting to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers so I could mobile live stream because sometimes I go to political stuff and I would like to be able to live stream from there. I'm still involved with the Republican Party, although albeit as an outsider that I feel is grotesquely underutilized, but what are you going to do? And I might have an announcement of working on some actual official stuff for the Republicans and for Trump specifically coming up. Though I'm not going to say anything until I'm more certain of it. Valerian, you're on ATS, yeah. Above top secret for those of you who don't know. It's still a conspiracy theory board. You talk about aliens and Bigfoot and stuff in there, but mainly it's kind of came into politics. So I talk a lot there. My name is Grambler on there. So you can check me out there. But please, thank you for your support. If you can recommend me some other people, if you would ever like to do a video with me, I always tell people my email is rob.nor, real simple, @gmail. I'll put it in the chat here. Get a hold of me. There's people, I've talked to people, I got this guy that's got this really deep stuff about Epstein he wants to talk about, but it has to do with like how it's like Luciferian or something. I don't know how much of that stuff I'm into, but I guess if he wants to talk about it, I can't promise if you want to come on and talk about something, if I don't know about it, there's not much I can say, and I'm not guaranteeing I'll agree with you, but I love talking to people, so I would be willing to do that or whatever. And especially if you know someone that would disagree with me but would like to have a discussion with me. I think if you saw that debate I did with Destiny, I know that a lot of people gave me crap because they thought that I should have been harder and that I was too polite. But hopefully one of the things it did was show, trust me, if you disagree with me, you come on, I'm not going to treat you like a piece of garbage. I'm really not. It's just not who I am. Now, if you're like the one guy and you come on and you just start calling me names, then, maybe it'll divulge. But so, all right, thank you, everyone. I'm going to go watch chess YouTube videos and fall asleep. But thanks so much, everyone, and have a good one.